views and opinions expressed here.
I'm blinking. I'm doing this against my will.
I think you're a normie if you even ask if it's a good idea.
First, let's define.
Case closed.
Let's define what a normie is.
Because I could be like, well, people don't like it when they bleed a little bit when they get shot. So now, so 100 FPS for.
Yeah, that's
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think there's
some. We should make it 500.
I think there's some way to meet in the middle.
Bringing that back is saying medic yes, medic no.
Nope. I've corrected many people.
I remember at AMS Arsenal, I had got down in the woods and I'm yelling for medic, 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 right? And this guy comes up, he's like, I know that secret code. You can't fool me. I'm like, I'm calling for medic. And he was upset. He thought I was cheating.
You said medic 3 times real fast.
It wasn't medic, yes, medic, no. It wasn't medic.
Yeah.
It wasn't like medic, whoa, not cool, gang.
I've seen that before though, where if somebody gets
you got it.
Yeah.
You got it in.
I didn't have the sunglasses.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Zulu 24 podcast. As always, I'm joined with Anthony from Airtech Airsoft Studios and Jordan from Zulu Outdoors. Hi, guys. How was your week?
Well, you see, it started snowing and the water's not working, and that's all right.
Yeah, it's just frozen.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the worst time of the year as far as like the water doesn't work.
Yeah, but we do everything we can to keep it working. It's
building
was made by idiots.
Yeah.
It's been cobbled and cobbled and cobbled and cobbled. But I'm fairly certain I know what's going on now. It's just frozen down by there's a little switch. It's like a pressure switch, and on the bottom of that pressure switch there's a rubber diaphragm, and then on the bottom of that is a tube that connects directly to the water line, and obviously a column of water is in that little tube, and that column of water either pushes or pulls on that little diaphragm, and that tells the switch to turn on or turn off. I think that the water in that tube is frozen, so it's not moving. So I could manually go out there and just shove a stick in the switch, but that can burn out the pump, which is what happened last time. So, that's right. You're a well guy too now. You helped me.
I did.
You held the flashlight.
I saw the old pump and I was like, oof. Right? And then you put the new one in and they were like, all right, let's see if the water works. And I was like, oh my God, the sink has pressure.
Yeah.
The little buttons on my faucet head actually work because there's enough water pressure.
Yeah. I went from a half horsepower to 3/4 horse, and it made a fucking huge difference. It's pretty great.
So this property is kind of like this miracle amalgamation of
just
appliances and the building, because it used to be a farm, then it became a golf course,
correct,
and then it became a sports dome.
Well, that was at the same time.
It was it golf and sports dome?
Yeah, it was golf and sports dome.
That's why there's AstroTurf. That whole AstroTurf area, that was the dome. They just kept the concrete frame in the AstroTurf when they packed up and left. And
the doors.
The doors. One of the doors became a shed.
Well, that dome would have still been there had that accident not happened.
Yep.
Because if I'm not mistaken, they deflated the dome.
Yep.
Some kids snuck in onto the property at night, tried to turn the dome on, and all they did was turn the lights on.
Yep.
Which burned a hole through the dome and ruined that. I don't know how much those things cost.
A silly amount, probably $750,000.
Yeah.
And they just ruined it because they wanted to play soccer or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. And that's why there's also a giant hole in the AstroTurf, because it burnt a hole in the AstroTurf.
Manny, you can see. So before we had everything that we have on the AstroTurf, and you could see the whole field. You could tell exactly where the lights were. They're in line with each other, because when they deflate the dome, they all fell in the same spot.
Yeah, because I think, if I can remember correctly, that happened after the golf company was gone, but Cousins Paintball was already here.
Yeah, because HVA was here.
HVA was here. Yeah. And I remember the very first day I came and played at HVA, the dome was still there.
Yeah, because when I slept, me and a couple other buddies, it was in March, we camped right up there by Checkpoint. Because we're we'll play Saturday, we'll camp, and then play Sunday. And it was March, and we're it's warmish, and then we froze all night. And then in the morning, we came down because camping sucks, and it's never fun. And the dome was inflated. And so I pushed on the door, and it was unlocked. And we walked inside, and it was warm. And we were like, God damn it, we could have slept in the dome all night,
Wow.
dude. It would have been great. You just like throw your sleeping bag on the ground and go to sleep.
Yeah, I'd only been in there twice because I used to play travel baseball, and tryouts for some reason were in there 2 years. But it was cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
And then
Yeah.
after the paintball and airsoft, well, HVA left. Cousins Paintball was still here, and then Dave moved in.
Yeah.
And there was like a 2-year gap between HVA leaving and Zulu coming here.
I learned a lot about like the history of the property. One guy, I don't know if it was during open play or during the week, but when I'm here during the week and there's nobody else here, I'm just working on stuff. NPCs come and I get to interact with them.
Oh yeah.
And usually, sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes it's very strange and a little bit scary. This one guy came up, knocked on the window, and he kind of asked me questions like, "Oh, do you work on like air guns?" Usually, like the older guys, like
during
older,
the week, they always ask about
older
air guns.
dudes will ask if I do like air guns or pellet
Farms.
rifles.
It's because the farms
Yeah.
around here.
And I'm like, no. And then he starts talking about the property. And he's like, yeah, I grew up here. I was like, did you know? He's like, yeah, this used to be a farm. And he starts describing the property like in detail. And I'm like, oh shit. He's like, yeah. And down there, and he's basically describing the embassy area heading down to like Dirty Mike Shack.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, there's like a brick shack down there with like the power, right? And on your way there, there's these like thorn bushes with berries. And like we put those berries there and like we would
You
eat
son of
them
a
and they
bitch.
were so sweet. So
He's responsible for all the thorns.
the berries,
Son
the
of a
berries,
bitch.
dude. I eat those berries. I don't recommend eating them because you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's telling me about the property and it was like really cool. It's a farm.
Yeah. Well,
It was a farm.
very popular in New York and in Pennsylvania are those rock walls, right? Those rock walls are there because when farmers would plow a field, every 4 feet they would hit a freaking rock. So they just like build walls out of them, and that's how you tell the property lines. But that's why the rock walls over there, right? I'm sure this whole lower area was probably farmed at one point. I don't know about up there; it might be too rocky, but
Oh, it's hella rocky up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And there's artifacts of the golf course too. So if you players playing here, you guys watching this, so if you find golf balls
Oh, I've explained that to someone.
everywhere, it's because it used to be a golf course and you found hidden golf balls.
Yeah.
And also behind this building, right,
used to be
there's a mini golf course.
a full mini golf
A
course.
full mini golf course that's just covered in brush.
Nature.
Nature.
Well,
Yep.
we ripped up some of them because that area over there that, like the makeshift chrono range and shooting area.
that we never used.
that we never used. Well, we were like, we're going to make this nice one summer. And we cleared it all out and weed whacked everything. And like 2 weeks later, it was overgrown again.
It grew back and it's not even that much range.
But we ripped up like 3 or 4 of the mini golf course holes over there because that was where it was. It was like an L shape behind the building because there was also stairs and like a rock patio behind this building too.
Oh yeah, that was probably a
we
place to
filmed-
like eat lunch.
Yeah, we filmed the Crossroads video over there.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Fuel Depot and other areas. So back at trail, if you're heading towards like power lines by Vietnam, you'll notice there's like these concrete slabs on the ground and there's like pipes coming out. It's because the golf course had water features.
Yeah, and the over-under respawn, that wood barrier is there because at some point in time when it was a paintball field, they used to do like Spartan races and
Oh, yeah.
adventure
Yeah.
runs here.
Yeah.
So when we moved here, when Zulu moved here, right? It was in October.
Yes.
It was in October. The first Saturday that we were like slated. Son of a bitch. I have to take this. Fuck. Sorry about that. Phone call I had to take. Yeah. So we moved here in October, and the very first weekend that we were like slated to be open, that Saturday, the people that own the property were like, "Hey, we know that you're supposed to like start, but we have this Spartan race or whatever, and
It was like an adventure run.
adventure run." Yeah, I think that's what they called it. And they like utilized the entire property, so we couldn't have games that day. So Mario and I sat out over here with like a table, and I think we had a saw and like some other thing, and
Probably a
hundreds of people came out for this, and they were just like doing the race or whatever, and then they'd come over to the table just like covered in mud and like, "Yo, what's this?" Because they're kind of the same people.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were like super interested in it. And I think there's still a clause, still to this day, there's a clause in our lease that says, I think 2 days a year, 2 weekend days a year, they're allowed to run races, but they haven't for
Yeah.
10 years. So
I
like
mean-
literally that was the last one. It's been 10 years.
And that's the red triangular structure in CQB that you can't climb or walk underneath.
Yeah,
There's holes in it, and it's
like,
probably going to fall down.
like, and I can't touch it because it's not mine. Like,
Yeah.
because it's still in the lease. You know, like
Yeah.
it's still there.
Are you able to just like
I can take it.
make a phone call and be like, hey,
Yeah,
it's going to fall down. It's next to a power line. It's a fire hazard.
It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
I can take it down. The reason why I don't take it down is because players kind of use it, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, just don't go on it or under it. You can shoot through it.
Yeah. But yeah, once it becomes like an obvious hazard,
It's getting there.
Yeah, it's been 10 years.
It's getting there.
So
But yeah, so remnants of the golf course. So back to the well, the water features up in Fuel Depot. I'm convinced that well was put there by the golf course for this building and then those little water features.
Well, yeah, because
And they did a hack job.
no, they probably did it right.
Right.
Everything down there, it's because there's like wood around there. So they built like a shack, dug down, and probably did it right. The problem is that it just never got maintained over 20 years. And so everything collapsed in on itself. And I mean, I had to dig. I had to dig like 3 feet down just to get to the switch.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be in dirt. It shouldn't be, it should be like, so I was thinking maybe this year I'll build a little shack or something above it.
I will help.
Put an
You should
expansion
help too,
tank.
Jordan.
yeah, no, that'll help with. Yeah.
It's for our water.
Yeah. But it's only on rare occasions like this where we've had a week where it's been
12 degrees.
sub 10 degrees.
Yeah.
And,
Pretty much every winter, it has been the case where like it would shut off.
Goes
But
in
if we
and
would
out,
leave
yeah.
the sink on, like just dripping, it would prevent stuff from freezing. But now it's just
that was a different issue though.
Yeah, because
This one's with this one. So the water pressure is not telling the switch to turn the pump on. Right. So there's nothing frozen in the lines. It's just at the
switch.
the mechanical switch to tell it to turn on. So that's a little different. Like running the sink wouldn't help that. It's just that I need to protect that switch and that tube from the elements. And that requires building some shit.
Yeah. So what'd you guys do on Saturday?
So originally I wanted to go to that Gun Gamers event that Tom had told me about.
Yeah.
And I was so down to do it. My wife was like, yeah, send it. Right. And when I was like ready to do it, right, went into work at West Point.
Yep.
And like the first thing when I came in, I talked to Tyler about, he's like, hey, so Saturday we're doing an FTX. I was like, all right, cool. Hell yeah. So I was like, we're doing that. So I just came here to get my stuff and head over there. And I got here early. They ended up pushing the time back to like 1:30. So I actually had some time to like work a little bit, bullshit, before I headed over there. And Dave was like, oh, can I come? And I was like, actually, let's see. So there's FTXs we do that are just like internal to the tactics team,
Yeah.
where it's like the cadets are running it and it's pretty, I'd say a little bit more casual. And then there's other FTXs where it's like there's big wigs and it's like sponsors and funding
And like government bureaucracy.
yeah, and also like press.
Okay.
Like people like they'll post, they'll take pictures and stuff for like news articles.
Oh my
or
God. Are
whatever.
you going to meet Task and Purpose one day?
Maybe. I don't know. So yeah, this was a more casual one. So I asked Tyler. Tyler asked the team leader, the cadet, and he was like, yeah. And actually, he said Ronnie can go too. I tried to get Ronnie to go.
That's hilarious. Well, I needed Ronnie in the shop.
So Dave didn't have any of his shit really. So
Nothing.
we borrowed your Bosch unit because we
Yeah.
wanted to make a lot of boom booms. And the cadets love the Bosch unit. I have
Love
to
that.
say, as far as like showing off the Boss to the military and law enforcement side of things, I got to pat myself on the back and say that I've been able to like really show it off, and they're interested in it. They think it's really cool,
Yeah.
especially
Yep.
yeah.
Because it was kind of funny. Like that came out of left field. I was helping Tyler move, and Sean gets a phone call at this Dave. He's just like, "Hey, is Jordan with you?" He's like, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "Hey, can I borrow your Bosch unit and go to West Point?" I'm like, "Sure, why?" Hangs up.
Yeah. Well, I tried calling your phone, but since you never answer your phone, I was like, well, Sean's with him. I'll call him. But I was kind of like half joking, like, oh, let me come with you.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, and then as it went, I was like, all right, I should go. And it was interesting. It was cool. It was It was interesting. Well, we thought we were going to go to a
Now, this is a Marine. This is a Marine that's going to be judging
this is
no.
Ooga Booga Marine.
Army
Well,
cadets.
Yeah, but they're cadets, right? They're not.
Ooga
But
Booga
they're
Mr.
also
Marine.
Army.
Yeah, I mean they did fine. I could see that the training. I mean, you'd already told me anyway, but the training was based around the drone and the implementation and getting flight time and real world application time.
Things were kind of last minute changed up. Like they had a whole, what's the word? Op board? No, it's not op board.
They had a plan.
They had two.
They had two plans.
They had one and then another one. We used neither of them. And like the location changed.
Yeah.
The
'cause
time changed,
I feel like
which it's not usually like that. I really
This sounds
just,
like flying by the seat of your pants now.
well,
it's
it was
usually,
like
I think it was just the weather because they were trying to avoid the rain because again, we were trying to get flight time on the drone and looking at the forecast, we can't fly it in the rain,
Yeah.
but then also doing it as it was almost getting dark in this new location that has like a bunch of tree cover. It kind of became, became a little sketchy.
yeah, like in the summertime when the leaves are in.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that would have been harder or easier. It might have been easier to see an opening in the canopy, but harder because the canopies would be a lot tighter.
I'll tell you this, just feeling your fingers makes things 100 times easier. Just it being so cold,
It was a little chilly.
it really, it messes with like just your judgment and your fine motor skills.
Okay.
So I was actually
Yeah.
fine the entire time. And I'm wearing Vans, but I got the right socks on.
Yeah.
I've got the right jacket on. My hands never get cold, so it's not a really big deal. But I could hear a little whispers with the cadets, like, "Oh, this guy's wearing Vans. Like his feet must be fucking ice blocks or whatever." And I was kind of chuckling to myself, like, "No, I'm good, man." Like, and it wasn't until the very, I'm talking like we had like fallen back to like a higher position and we were behind a rock. And I was trying to, so there was not a lot of shooting for us, right? We're there for the drones. I'm just a guest, so I'm not trying to like blow
You're not
anything
trying
up.
to be
Basically,
attention.
wherever I went or where Tyler went, it was like, all right, Dave, just
Yeah, it was kind of
come
weird.
cover
I was
us.
like a
Yeah.
weird third wheel type thing, but that's all right.
It was like playing airsoft, and a lot of them don't mess with airsoft. If they ever pick up a gun for a training thing, they're getting blank fire and all that stuff. So they don't.
Which they should have used this time.
There's cadets
Honestly.
that like know what an R-hop is,
Okay.
and then there's a majority of them that don't know what a hop-up is,
Yeah.
or that they can adjust it. Some of them just forget that they don't even know that they have to plug a battery in to get the thing to work.
Yeah.
So you either have autism or
No.
has no idea what the sport is.
It's not that. It's
They're college students
Yeah.
that have a bigger workload than any other college student you or I have ever met.
Yeah.
You know, like they have like required PT, and they still get punished if they like do something. Like they still have discipline that like a college won't give you. So like
Yeah.
they might have to just do the thing where they just walk around in their class, whatever uniform. And
Yeah. So
depending on like, so
Corrective action.
there's a wide gap in knowledge simply because to them this is training for the military. It's not they're not playing airsoft or whatever. So with that being said, I'm not doing anything right
Yeah.
for most of the scenario, and it wasn't until the very end where we actually got some trigger time, right? So this is 2 hours, whatever. It's cold. My battery done, fully charged, but because it was so cold and because it wasn't being used, it just dead.
it got to 26 degrees and we were at like a really high elevation.
Yeah. And then when the sun started going down, it got even colder. So by the time I could shoot, I think I got like a 5-round burst off.
And then your battery was just out.
And then my gun was like just beeping at me like, no, there's not enough voltage. But the boss unit could still God mode function. So we fall back to this other position. We're behind this rock. This is basically 3 minutes to index. And I was trying to because there was so little battery that the boss was shutting off and then turning back on because the battery was like fluctuating. And so I kept having to put it back into God mode. And I remember trying to press the button and not feeling the tip of my finger. So I wasn't sure if I was pressing the button. I was just looking at the light, like waiting it for go up. And in that moment, the tip of my finger was like throbbing. It was like incredibly cold. But it was fun. I had a good time. I like being around that. It's a much slower pace. When in terms of like tactics and moving and stuff like that. It's a much slower pace, which is how it should be.
Like it's not airsoft. It's like
No.
if you can see them and you're aiming at them and shooting them, for all intents and purposes, you shot them.
My favorite thing,
Yeah.
my favorite thing, and we can cut this if I'm not allowed to say this, but my favorite thing in the whole world is the 240.
You can say that.
And how they employ the 240. So I don't even know. So again, everything is at actual distance, right?
Yeah.
So obviously Airsoft can't do that, and they don't have blanks. We weren't running those. So when they shot the 240, the guy just yelled out, "Motherfucking 240!" And that was like the signal. And then like a range safety guy would come over and be like, "Hey, they shot the 240." Like, and I was dying the whole time.
That's like the equivalent for military training of the ref walking over and being like, "Airstrike, everybody's dead."
No, for real.
When we don't have pyro, like we just use tennis balls as grenades. And for the AT4, they have these like inert AT4 tubes. Like that one.
Yeah.
Which that one was converted to shoot daggons.
Nope.
Oh,
No,
Something else.
Yeah, rockets, but
still based. So they just have the tube, right? And for the AT4, they go AT4, boom, you know? And when I did, when I was
Guy walks over and knocks on the Bradley. Hey, you guys are dead.
when I was participating in summer training this summer, there was a point where I got held captive. I was unarmed. I was just like a drone operator. They didn't put us like in the exercise, but I got captured. I'm in a building with one of them, and they took my radio and they're like talking like, oh, and they're giving fake call outs.
Oh, nice.
Saying like, oh yeah, I see these guys here, whatever. And the guy ends up picking up an AT4 and he sees some guys, and then he does the AT4 boom. And I have it on video too. Lane Walker comes over and is like, hey, pick up that AT4 again. And he picks it up. He's like, everybody in here is dead. He held the AT4 backwards. Oh. So the Lane Walker saw the back of the AT4 sticking out the window and he killed all of us. I got captured, detained, and then just blown up.
That's just like, okay, so from just fooling around with that
fun.
one.
It's like the fun moments during these types of exercises are different than the type of fun moments you look for in airsoft.
Yeah, but that's kind of funny because like the AT4 literally has written on the side of it the proper instructions and it says front and rear.
There's a picture of it.
Yeah, there's a picture.
Yeah, but I mean, in the stress of the moment, people do weird shit. And it's funny, when the guy was yelling motherfucking 240, I was kind of chuckling, not at him and not at the application, but it reminded me of my time in the Marine Corps when you would just, there's nothing going on in terms of like company training that day. For the infantry, we only do one thing, right? So when there's not that one thing to do, you just kind of chilling in the barracks. But like your squad leaders or your team leaders would take you out into we call it the quad. It's just an open area in between. And you would do fire team rushes and shit like that. So you're out in the quad holding nothing, going, die, motherfucker, die. That was the ditty for firing a 249 was die, motherfucker, die. So you got all these Marines just out there going, bang, bang, and then die, motherfucker, die. So it like just reminded me of that. And I was just, it kind of brought me back a little bit. It was weird. And it also made me feel really old. Yeah. But it was cool. It was cool.
You got to see how not cool my other job is.
Yeah.
There's cool moments.
Fuck.
There's cool moments. Unfortunately, you didn't get to see that.
No, but I understand it, right? Because I've been through that type of training before, and I've been where that cadet was who was just trying to like launch and I've never done drones, but I've done things that are new to me and had somebody standing over me who had done it a countless amount of times, almost like putting on the shoes, and you kind of feel dumb because they're like, no, fucking back. Fucking back. Just go back. Lateral back.
Yeah.
Lateral back. Stop.
Stop rotating.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
You're rotating.
Listen to the words coming out. So, and you weren't doing that to them, but that's just my, like.
Yeah. I had to take the controller just one time just because I was like, I just got to land it. So like it's really expensive equipment. And really, so the way that it is, it's like, so there's the robotics research center that me and Tyler work for. And pretty much their main thing is just getting funding to do research and to develop robots. Yeah. And the idea is to put it like from the ground up, think of it as like, let's integrate it into a squad instead of making some crazy tech and then having them change all of their SOPs and stuff. So we're trying to make things like simple. So this tactics team, because now that like they're, I guess we sponsor them. They're part of the Robotics Research Center. without that, they wouldn't have funding. They would just be like an extracurricular airsoft club. And there's already clubs like that.
I was going to say West Point has an airsoft club.
Yeah. So what they do is they actually, during the semester, they go through the Ranger Handbook and they do have lectures and lessons. So they'll do a day on CQB. They'll do a day on patrol. They'll do night raids. They'll do that stuff. And then when they actually go out to FT Exit and work on what they were studying, now we're putting tech into it. So that's where they have like this extra, I guess that's the twist. That's the cool thing about what they're doing is that they get to test out this new tech and we get to come up with cool things to try to implement. So we get their input. And when we do those exercises, we get to AAR and see what they like, see what they didn't like. So really all their nice equipment they got from us. So like you saw a bunch of Crytacs there. Like Tyler and I had to like make a PowerPoint, break down costs and stuff and convince them that like, all right, we should get them these airsoft guns because they will last longer because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It was like the same tech talk I give, to customers when I tell them just buy a Crytac. Their Spiritus stuff, like their really cool gear, like we were like, yeah, let's get them that. Their Mohawk cameras, we're like, yeah, let's get them that. So we're trying to get them better training equipment so that there's less like lane walker OC type things happening because we want to find that middle ground between airsoft being a training tool and testing out the tech. Not making a perfect simulation for combat, but really just creating a sandbox where we could focus more on the tech and focus less on the, hey, you shot a burst in that direction, everybody's dead.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So like we're trying to get them tag-in projectiles, things like that.
What? It's a spooky ghost.
Spooky ghost.
The ghost heard us talking shit about the building.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Wine?
So basically what we were doing on
Okay.
Saturday, are you going to check it out?
Well, I got to reset the cameras anyway, so I'll reset the cameras. You guys keep talking.
Yeah.
It was very clear that the focus of that whole thing was about the drones and not necessarily about the tactics or the movement. It actually, somebody said that, I think in the safety brief, or I heard it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool. I think it's cool. There were some things that I would change from a training standpoint. If you're focusing on the drone, then I would have changed some things, but overall it was fun. I had a good time.
What did you think of the drone, seeing it deployed? Were you impressed that like the guy who crashed a drone here the first time he flew one is now like teaching people how to, is now like accountable for what happens to it?
So I'll be honest with you, I wasn't impressed with the equipment itself.
Yeah. It's stuff you've seen before.
Yeah. The controller was neat. I have never,
The thermal camera?
yeah.
We could talk about a thermal camera.
yeah.
We can't talk, some of the capabilities
Sure.
we can't talk about, but the obvious stuff that you can look up on the internet.
Yeah. So the thermal was good, but in the second iteration, I think the cadet was saying, well, when he went to take off, the drone gave him a message that was like, you need to wipe the camera.
Yeah, so that's just the drone. So
Is that obstacle avoidance or?
yeah.
Okay.
So the drone, they have these obstacle avoidance cameras. It's like, if you have a car that has LiDAR cameras on it,
Like a Tesla, yeah.
yeah, like it just wants you to land it, wipe the camera. And
Yeah. So, but the thing that was strange, and I don't know if this was operator error or if it was a system error or whatever, is that he went he went up to 200 feet or whatever. And it's cold. Everybody's moving around, so everybody's a little bit worn. He was having such a hard time finding people. And I have visual line of sight. And so I had this like conversation in my head, like, am I allowed to say anything? Should I say anything? He's here to train the drone. He should be, he should be working that camera. And it got to a point because I'm just staring at the 240, right? And I was just like, hey man, do you see the civilian vehicles? He's like, yes. I'm like 30 meters to the fucking north behind a rock. There's two guys. Yeah. And he was just like, I can't find it. I can't find it. I can't find it.
that was him. So that's why they need that time on it.
That's fine. And that's what it's for, right?
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I am not a drone operator. I am not a professional by any means. It's just simply my observation and opinion, right? Is I would gain elevation make the camera, zoom out the camera, find a reference point, find some, for instance, the civilian vehicles, right? Yep. Find a reference point, boom. Use that reference point to kind of slowly zoom in and start a search pattern because I'm at high elevation, right? Once I find a target, ID the target, verify it via radio or whatever the fuck. It was a little painful for me to like sit there and listen to it, but that's what it's for. They're there to train.
And some of the deployment, like the play area we used was so small.
Yeah.
And the way that they just sent the drone up, it is like counterintuitive to the way that you should do it in a tactical environment. Like you don't just send the drone up directly above your head.
Yeah.
If you were to just guess, what are the odds that the operator of that drone is right under the drone?
Yeah.
You know, there's
it could also be like incidental fire. Somebody's actually shooting at the drone, but
there's
missing
like,
and hitting you. You know,
there's like an SOP for how you would want to deploy a drone if you're doing reconnaissance.
Yeah.
And part of that is like before you just send it all the way up in the air, you're going to move it laterally on the ground to a different location and then send it up, you know? So that way, when they see it go up, they don't necessarily know where you are. They didn't really have the play area for that. The tree cover was really bad.
Yeah.
And we couldn't really give them the liberty to do that. And the terrain we were on, it was all just steep, slippery hills. And it was freezing cold. So it was really hard to like physically just move people in different areas to kind of allow that to happen.
But also long term from a tactics perspective, seeing that point you just made is valid. Would it not be in the realm of expectations that, let's say, an opposing force would eventually learn that, hey, that's their TTP. They're going to move the drone laterally.
Yeah, but you don't know what direction.
They don't see
but
it
then they can
because
look at being like, hey, we're in this area. The drone went up in this area. Would we not be able to say, hey, look, if they moved in X direction, Y direction, Z direction, the drone operator is probably in one of these three positions.
Maybe.
Or within a 500 meter radius. Yeah.
So like
for sure, but
this drone has like really good range. And the thing is, the way that you would deploy it, if lives were on the line and you had a real mission, it's way different than when you're following FAA regulations and all the rules there. Cause like one of the big rules that makes it, okay, so like in Ukraine, you have a dude in a basement somewhere connected to an FPV drone and he's just sending it out on a one-way trip to blow something up, right? Yeah. He's only observing where this drone is through the FPV goggles.
Correct.
Whereas like FAA regulations, we need to keep a physical line of sight of the drone as it's going out. So it really limits how we use it. So really it's like, what are we isolating? It's the same argument with the tech in this context as we talk about with airsoft for training. Like if you're going to do gas gun night at full auto indoor, right?
Yeah.
There's some training value to it.
Correct.
Not all of it translates to real steel.
No.
Correct. Yeah.
For instance, plywood is not hard cover.
No,
you know,
it's concealment.
Yeah. But
not every building is made out of plywood.
Yeah. And playing outdoor with AEGs has training value as well. Now, obviously, if they're outside a BB war range, you can't hit them. So if you're only relying on the rules of airsoft for elimination, then it obviously does not carry over. But like, it's just,
and that's where
it's identifying what you can carry over. So like outdoor play, what do you do now? I mean, your kit shakedown.
Correct.
You know how
In the
well you
same
can
way
hide
that
in a bush.
for formations, movement, react to contact.
And that's
like
why
that,
we
but-
see things like Milsim West utilizing actual blank fire and not the BOSS system.
Yeah.
Because that extends the range of the BB Wars gunfights. Not saying you're going to hit someone with your blank fire, but they're supposed to react. So that's where we see companies progressing to try and extend the range of airsoft engagements, which kind of circles back to what I was going to ask with all of this. In terms of how you guys are implementing things like this into the military training space at West Point. We've talked about drones and airsoft before, but how do we see stuff like this affecting airsoft in the short term, but the long term as well?
So like when Gun Gamers did an event here one time, and a winnable asset in the game was access to a drone.
Correct.
To do. I forgot if the drone was doing.
I think it was doing reconnaissance.
Just reconnaissance.
Yeah. And they just had admin operating it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like an admin tool. It allows you to add more stuff to the game, which I think is really cool. As far as like players operating it, Dave brings up a great point. If you're going to deploy a drone to do surveillance or do anything, you have to be okay with the drone getting shot down. Otherwise, it's just, you know, there has to be some give or take.
Yeah, there has to be a balance mechanic because we're still playing a game.
I think it'd be really cool if there was a thing, a mechanism or a servo or whatever the fuck to like attach to the bottom. And those like big like vortex
Oh, like the Nerf
footballs that whistle. Because it's one thing when you're just throwing it, here in staging, you get a little bit of whistle. But when it drops from like, I don't know, 200 feet, 250 feet, it's got a long whistle to it. And it, as lame as it sounds in your head, could be really cool. Like to have that much of a whistle come in. Now, obviously you're going to see the drone and everything. And when it hits the ground, it's just a Nerf football, but everything about it could potentially be cool, like a cool experience. And it would still require a member of staff on the ground to like do some ground effect or whatever. But it definitely opens up a door, right? Again, as an asset team, you captured the drone uplink or whatever the fuck, right? And now you have this one-time thing, and if it lands in a building, it kills everybody in the building. I think it'll be okay because of the effect of the whistle. And I think that's important. You can't just drop a tennis ball.
I like the idea of a ground effect there because, like, we keep talking, we bring it up constantly, like the airstrike or mortar strike mechanic Dylan and I are trying to figure out. Using a drone, we have a max flight ceiling here, hooking up a Nerf Vortex football to it. So when the player who has the airstrike calls it in, instead of, because like the mortar is a lot of work to set up, it's a lot of logistics, it's a lot of safety. With the drone, if we just pop the drone in the air and it drops a Nerf Vortex football, so they hear the whistle coming in, and then there's a staff member on the ground because the player has to read the grid coordinate and go, this is where I want it to drop. You or I fly the drone over, drop the football, the ref on the ground drops 2 or 3 bang 22s. When the football hits the ground, it's like, hey, that was your strike. Like right there. They heard it coming in. They had time to move because now the player hears it coming in. They go, oh shit, that's incoming right now. Let's get out of here.
The whistle.
It gives it's a balance mechanic almost because now the player on the receiving end goes, oh, what is that? Oh my God, it's coming right over here. Let me try and get out of the blast radius.
The whistle definitely is like mortar incoming.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. This might be a great idea.
It's like not even that real.
But also
I've heard it, but it's not as pronounced. Video games, right? Video games like me,
But from a safety aspect, then we're not worried. Like if a Nerf football hits someone in the head,
it'd be fine.
It's fine. Yeah. It's not like, oh, they just got hit by a tag round in the face and stuff like that.
I think you could just drop tagging grenades.
No, but then the drone has to be low.
We're talking about putting the drone at the max flight ceiling we can go here.
So then you can't.
And what is that? What's the height ceiling here?
I believe it's 500 feet.
Dude, if you're 500 feet and you drop a tagging grenade, it's
going off in air.
I can make the mechanisms to drop it, right? It just holds this. You can time it so that it blows up before it hits the ground.
Yeah, you have to be
right.
You have to be 3 seconds of fall time.
Yeah,
which is probably 100 feet.
Right, and I love what you're getting at there. But what we're talking about is from a balance mechanic of the vortex whistles, which now means the player on the receiving end of it knows it's coming. So now they have time to react.
And also, if you're 300 feet up, I don't think we need to go 5, but if you're 300 feet up, there's potential that you don't hear the drone. So now it's not this game breaking. It's not like a ref coming over and standing there with a radio. Like when a ref stands around and
it's like the same way when players see me with a camera, they know whatever direction I have the camera pointed in, there's a player there.
Yeah.
It kind of breaks the game.
Yeah. It doesn't break the fourth wall. Right. So if they don't hear it, if they potentially don't hear the drone, but then they hear the whistle as it gets closer and closer. I mean,
even then it might be high enough where they might hear it a little bit and be like, oh, hey, there's a drone in the air. They might be doing X or Y or filming.
I imagine you'll be able to see the Nerf.
If I can make,
probably.
If I can make a droppable training munition that is safe like a Nerf football, but also can make a big boom boom when it lands,
it would have to be impact.
I think the whistle
would be impact.
The whistle's important. I feel like you could take a full-sized Vortex football and gut it and put a device inside. That way you're retaining the foam on the tip, you're retaining the whistle, and there's enough room in there that
Anthony, I think
mean,
we have
nothing-
some plans this week.
Well, I mean, nothing big, right? You're not going to put a
I already started working on stuff. I already started working on some stuff.
maybe like a
We'll have to test it. What would be your metric to determine, like, if I was like, Dave, I've made these 5 prototypes of this thing. What do I have to drop it on for us to determine if it's safe for human consumption?
Your head.
oh brother, you
Like a piece of cardboard? What
No,
do you-
your
probably
head.
just feel it, right? Like
Does it have to land on us and we have to feel it?
no, you just. I feel like the density of a vortex football is probably good. That's probably what you're going for, right?
Man.
It wouldn't be fun to get hit in the head with a
No, but
vortex
it would be
football
safe.
falling from 250 feet. But
What's nice is with like your DJI drone, your camera should be able to tilt. all the way.
So I have a button on it where I just hit the button and it immediately goes straight
And this
down.
is why players wouldn't operate that drone. Admin would do it.
Yeah,
and,
of
and,
course,
and admin would make
'Cause
that
the whole scenario
determination.
we're
Is
talk-
it safe to drop this football right here, right now?
The whole scenario we're talking about in this moment is utilizing this for that airstrike mechanic so we can implement it during gameplay so that a player can, complete an objective or find the package where they unlock the airstrike.
I love it. I
Now,
love it. Like
As
to me,
admin, we can fly it and drop the strike for them.
it's like you're adding kill streaks to the game.
It's more of a team-based streak
Yeah.
because, again, the same thing with cool props. That very intricate cool prop is only cool to the one player that gets to utilize it. The 10 people pulling security while he's snipping the wire on the super intricate bomb prop, they're just like, I'm
Well,
watching
if
this
the
door.
team earns it, it's just going to start happening around them.
Correct. That's the thing. So now it's like you guys completed this objective, which allowed you to have this team asset. Now you guys get to collectively, or maybe the squad leader or the team leader or whoever,
the forward air control.
the forward air controller gets to go, hey, we have this objective at, say, 2:00 where we need to go grab a package and bring it to this position. Let's airstrike that position while we're on the move. So they call it in. Hey, we got the package. Somebody else goes over to staff and is like, we have the airstrike grid coordinate, blah, 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 blah. Fly the drone over, drop it.
Yeah.
Everyone within 100 feet is dead. This is lining up to be a very cool asset for the game. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Which is why I asked the question with like the implementation of the drones and other technology we've seen because of this. What do we think Airsoft's going to look like in the future?
I think you're going to see more event producers using it. I feel like Grimnir was using drones too. I think they were working on
for assets.
I think they were working on a way to shoot one down
They were working on
using lasers.
No, they yes.
Like it was like all right, this will take it down.
Well,
but
they were also working on a I don't know. That might be like some secret squirrel shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some secret
They were
sauce we
working
don't
on
wanna-
they were
Redacted.
they were working on a system for vehicles of all types where they could just put it on the side or underneath or whatever, and there could be, for instance, a prop AT4 that has an effect. So it's got smoke or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it like makes a bang.
yeah.
But really what it's doing is firing a laser at whatever target you're aiming
This
at.
is like
And
Miles gear on crack.
yeah, it's Miles gear.
Yeah.
And then that would initiate something in the vehicle, on the vehicle, whatever the fuck, something very obvious to the crew of the vehicle that they've been hit. Tags are great, but when you're cooped up inside of a vehicle and there's a lot happening and there's gunners and I need ammo and all this stuff, and then
You might not necessarily hear that.
yeah, especially if it's like a chalk round.
Yeah.
Even the launchables are, I mean, they're loud, but they're not.
Cool, but I've seen it where some dudes get, like at Benghazi, like the vehicle would get hit by a tag and they'd be like, did that hit us? Like
Yeah.
what happened? Like, and as staff, I'd have to like break out of the immersion and be like, hey guys, like that EG-67 or that tag round just hit the truck. They're like, oh, okay, we're dead.
Yeah, so this would, in my head, and I've never seen this thing, and they didn't really talk too much about it, but in my head, there's like a mountable light.
Kind of like the sports smoke remote igniter thing.
Well, just a light, right? So if you get hit, that light turns on. Okay, we know we've been hit once. We're immobilized. Boom, we just got hit again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something like that. But
And who is this?
that was Grimnir.
Bully Grimnir.
Bully Grimnir. That was a long time ago, and I'm probably misremembering all that, but
No, but that sounds dope because even there, that triggered the idea of like, hey, we use the sports smoke remote igniters or something. It wouldn't be hard.
I built my own for Benghazi.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying it wouldn't be hard for that system to then be integrated to that box where inside the vehicle, the driver and crew get a little light sensor that's like, oh, hey, you've been disabled. And then at the beginning of the game, any technical, they're like, hey, here's a game provided box that has to mount to the top or the bed of the truck.
Yeah.
So that when that light goes off and that truck is hit, it ignites a black smoke grenade. And it's like, oh, look, that
I'm actually remembering more about Grimnir system,
Yeah.
and we'll talk more about it off air. It's actually way more intricate, and we'll talk about it off air because it's like it's some IP shit. Like they
So
could
if you
fucking-
really want to know more about this, you have to bully Grimnir to come back so they'll actually make it.
or head on over to our Patreon. It's only
$55 a month.
We have a Patreon?
No.
No, we don't. Do we?
Can we? Should we?
Nobody's gonna pay
Should
to
we start a
watch.
Patreon and do like
Nobody's gonna-
field vlogs? Like, do you guys want to see that?
Nobody's gonna pay to watch us.
Would you pay money to hear all the redacted stuff?
Yeah, oh God.
Hey,
and
Unsubscribe did that, and now it's a full streaming service.
Yeah.
Just saying. They started with a Patreon, now they have Pepperbox. Just saying. You guys want to hear unredacted content and field vlogs? Patreon.
So I went to a game a long time ago. This was pretty neat, right? So this was at GTI, I believe it was Third Coast, many, many years ago, back when GTI still had all the trees. The other team had a technical, and there was a way to disable it or whatever, but we didn't have any tools to do that, so we just kind of avoided it and like.
Yeah.
But it was disabled near us, near a capture point. And it was cool. The people that had the truck, it actually looked a lot like our Jeep over there.
Okay.
They had a mechanism that the driver could flick and make smoke come out of the hood.
So I remember you telling me about that, and it
was-
was like a mixture of that plus the Grimnir thing where that was the box idea I had. I like that. That's
it was
cool.
really cool. It was a visual indicator, like, okay, he's immobilized, or I think in this case he was dead, or the vehicle was dead. It wasn't stupid like flashing lights or anything. Like it kept the immersion. Like there was smoke coming out of the hood. Like, yeah, all right, cool, man.
Because I think, if I'm remembering correctly, for Benghazi, it was a VS17 panel went on the vehicle when it was out.
I believe so.
Yeah. So that's cool. And that's a safety aspect. And we all understand that.
Sure.
From a player standpoint, if I fucking ripped a truck with the AT4, yeah, I want to see smoke.
Yeah.
I want to see something cool happen where, like, yeah, cool, everybody in the truck's now dead, or maybe like half the vehicle is immobilized, but half the occupants are dead, like stuff like that. Like, I understand from a gameplay perspective. But as the person that, like, invested the money and the time into that, if I'm going to use that on a vehicle, like, I want some kind of post effect. Like, I would love to see the
Now,
vehicle just ripping smoke.
Hypothetically, is this an event where people might bring their own vehicles?
So in this case, it was.
Yeah.
So
this
Most
guy had
airsoft events,
just.
it is.
So if one of the conditions of bringing your own vehicle is that, like, all right, we're going to duct tape the smoke to it. When you get hit, driver, you know what to do. Just pull the pin.
Well, that's why I'm saying,
It's like a dead rag for a vehicle.
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I was
This would
saying
be
from-
like a whole system.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like there would be panels on all four sides of the vehicle, the smoke thing probably on the hood, and it's all connected. Right. This is where the technology comes in.
Yeah, because like
Beyond
so
my-
with Benghazi, that was probably your first time doing an event where like a lot of vehicles were used.
Yes.
That's
had a lot
not
of vehicles.
that's completely opposite
Chris
of how
brought,
most
Chris brought like 834 Jeeps.
right, but also Panthera supplied a lot of those vehicles too.
Yeah.
That was the exact opposite of how a normal game with vehicles run. 99% of the time, it's players bringing their own vehicles that they use as technicals.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying from a gameplay standpoint, there's a safety requirement. Like if you're going to bring a vehicle, you have to let us know X amount of time in advance, and you have to be okay with us giving you a device that goes onto your vehicle. So now when they get there, like, hey, here's a box. It's a professionally made, like it looks neat. It's not just a bunch of wires hanging out of something. This box has to be mounted on the top or in the bed of the truck, stuff like that. So when that goes off, it's self-contained and it's not like a big messy cleanup. It's just a box.
Yeah. But it was cool. It was cool. And the guy turned the smoke on. I was like, man, that's.
We should have Chris on so he can explain how he brought 978 Jeeps.
We
to
should have Max
Benghazi.
and Ian on.
He brought two.
Yo,
Yeah.
Two. And it was a Tahoe. I think it was a Tahoe and a Jeep.
Yeah.
And Panthera gave us two black Tahoes. He brought his black Tahoe and
nah. Chris brought like 1,241 Jeeps.
No. And then by the end of it, I felt so bad, man. I felt so bad. The interior of that Tahoe was
yeah.
covered in 3 inches of dust. Every square inch of it was,
Yeah.
dude. I was like, oh my
But
God.
that was also really cool having the mechanic of the GRS convoy.
Yeah, it was great. And it just so happened like all the vehicles were black and they were all like Suburbans and
Yeah.
Tahoes and shit. So it was like, it kind of looked right. It was
It
kind of
felt good.
Yeah, it was a good game. Good up. Good up.
Yeah. But yeah, so drones, man.
Well, I think the question was like,
Yeah.
like how
How do
What-
we see stuff like this affecting airsoft long term? I mean, short term, yeah, because now
I-
we've got like short term ideas.
Last podcast we talked about like small, cheap toy commercial drones.
Yeah.
I see those maybe getting implemented because people will be like, yeah, whatever. I don't care if it gets shot down. If they're just going to use it in CQB,
Yeah, but the safety aspect of that, like I see it already because somebody brought it up.
Dude, there's
after that episode came out, they're
those
like
small-
the FAA regulations and shit.
FAA
Yeah, I
regulations.
don't think they apply to the small ones.
So we are right next to Stewart Air Force Base.
Yep.
And actually at West Point, that's one of the things we have to consider. There's an app called Before You Fly.
Yeah.
That's something you have to use. There's a bunch of stuff if you want to be compliant. These small, cheap commercial toy drones, they're not going to have a height ceiling of more than
Like 40 feet.
100 feet max. And even that's like a stretch, like again, my son's toy drone, this thing maybe will go up to like 50 feet before it just like doesn't have enough connection. It just falls from the sky.
Sure. And that's 50 feet in a straight line. So that realistically your range is an arc from that 50 feet.
And if this drone lands on your head, it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
I see more of those getting used the way that we use pyro.
I think we're focusing too much on drones. I think in terms of airsoft, there's for instance, the vehicle that spouts smoke. And I think there's also, so something else that Grimner did, Bully Grimner, is that they had like these set piece events that would happen, right?
Right.
Where it wasn't just pyro like we throw grenades or tag grenades or anything like that. It was like they simulated in their story world a ship being shot down.
Oh, you've told me about this, yeah.
And it was awesome. It was at night, obviously, and they used some pyrotechnics that looked like a machine guns, multiple machine guns, anti-aircraft shooting up because it was like tracers.
Yeah.
And then after that was done, a giant gas bomb went, like it looked like something got shot down. And I think that's like in the production value. I think we'll see more of that where it's an airsoft game, but it's an experience, right? It's almost a show. And it was awesome. It was really good, man. And it was kind of funny watching Ian try to put the fire out, but it was really good, man. I mean, like it was good. You could tell it was fireworks or whatever, but it wasn't like they were flying up and then going, psh, you know what I mean? Like it was just tracer fire going up, and then they ignited.
I would love to know how he did that effect.
They ignited like a fuel bomb.
They'll never tell.
No, I'm just talking about for the anti-aircraft
More reason
fire.
to
I would
bully
love.
them. More reason to bully
Oh
them
yeah,
to come
100%.
back.
Like bully Grimner to come back. Absolutely.
Come back and do that.
I tried to get Ian to come on the podcast today. It wasn't working. I texted him yesterday. I'm like, hey, what are you doing at 9 a.m. tomorrow? Yeah, and he's just like, I'm working tomorrow. Why? What's up? And I was like, hey, so you want to like call out of work and come do a podcast? He just goes, I wish. I'm like, so you're gonna call out of work and come do the podcast? I was trying, but
successful people are successful, and that's what sucks.
Well, I want to know. We're going to circle back to a topic from last podcast with this. I want to know how he did the anti-aircraft fire because
it was clearly fireworks, like like consumer fireworks, right?
Yeah.
But the ones that they chose were perfect.
Okay.
Because all they were, it just looked like tracer fire.
Yeah.
It didn't. There was no effect once the like tracer burned out. Like it didn't do like a crackly pop. You know, it was just that. You know. So it was perfect. Whatever product it was perfect, and it like fanned back and forth. So it looked like, you know,
because
it was good. It was fucking good. And then the fuel bomb that Panthera set up, they provide that. And this is all at night. So when the fuel bomb went up, it looked like a little like mushroom. It was awesome. It was fucking awesome.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because last week you asked Anthony and I to do our homework and come up with some topics and ideas. And I started putting pen and paper on the Milsim Day ideas. And
no gas bombs.
No. That's not what I'm getting at. We had talked, every objective in airsoft boils down to like one of the same 6 ideas.
Yeah.
So I was trying to give players a little bit of a taste of like a storyline to some of the objectives. So like for one team, I had written down like, hey, the helicopter got shot down. It landed in the village. You need to go rescue the pilot and bring him to the hospital to score 5 points for your team. So like a simple objective where essentially that's just down pilot. But then that was the 1 o'clock objective. And at 3 o'clock, the same team got hey, the pilot woke up from his coma now that he's been in the hospital for 2 hours. And he said the intel he was carrying flew out of the helicopter when he was shot down.
What an ass.
And I was like, the intel fell out of the helicopter somewhere by the embassy because the other team has an anti-aircraft battery at embassy.
Yeah.
And it's like, Okay, cool. So now you have to go find the intel that flew out that might just be thrown in a fucking bush.
It's just a duffel bag of cocaine and a bear got to it
I had
first.
written down that it was going to be one of the red or blue boxes.
Airsoft cocaine bear.
Yeah, like I had written down that it was going to be one of the red or blue boxes just because like it keeps it simple. We already have the
Oh my
prop.
God. I go and rent a bear suit and they have to fight me.
No, make
and
Sean the bear.
and their BBs don't work. They have to wrestle me. So,
Have Sean be the bear. He's like, come on, you want to go?
But,
white all over the nose.
but it,
I am jacked up right now.
He just picks up one of the trucks.
okay, to bring
Sorry,
it back. No,
sorry.
you're fine. That was super funny.
I saw that play out in my head. It's too good.
But I had written it in the same way that at some point in time, the team that had the anti-aircraft battery, so the team that spawned power lines, like one of their objectives was to go get ammo to resupply the anti-aircraft battery. So the next, if they completed that, the next Milsim day, they would still have ammo for their anti-aircraft gun.
Oh, cool.
But immediately that just triggered, it was like, that'd be really cool that if Milsim day started at 1 o'clock, at 12:55, an anti-aircraft battery just starts shooting. And then you're like, oh, hey, by the way, your team objective is you have to go find the helicopter that was just shot down by that. And maybe that's too intricate for Milsim day, but it'd be something cool to utilize at some point in time.
So there's a world where we could use model rockets
Yeah.
to simulate like an anti-aircraft missile.
Yeah. But at the same time there, like you said, that was at night. It'd probably be more pronounced at night.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
This happening at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon where it's sunny out. Like, yeah, you're not going to notice it, but it'd be cool.
Yeah, that would suck. We like put all this work into it,
You
and
can't
then we
see it.
set off the rocket, and nobody even acknowledges it, and we're just like, oh, okay.
That kind of
Helicopter.
It happened at Benghazi a little bit.
Oh yeah, it did.
But that was where I was going with that, was like trying to make each team had different objectives in my head, and then finding a way to interlink them for the next follow on Milsim day.
Yeah.
Because like if you captured those ammo cans, you could resupply your anti-aircraft battery. So maybe next game, if a team had a drone asset, you would have the ability to shoot down that drone asset, stuff like that.
With the anti-aircraft battery. Yeah, that's good.
It's a balancing mechanic to this.
Yeah. Or maybe the drone can't go in a certain radius of an area because
There's an anti-aircraft position.
and maybe they have to set up anti-aircraft to kind of dominate the.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's why I kind of in the write-up for it, because like again, every objective boils down to one of the same 6 things.
Yeah.
It was, hey, the pilot was flying west to east over the area. He got shot down in the African village. So now like, hey, his flight path was west to east. He got shot down by the
That's asking a lot.
yeah, he got it shot somewhere down by the embassy. You don't know where the anti-aircraft battery is, so you can't blow it up yet.
Yeah.
But now like, oh, hey, they were in that area. Let's go recon it for that intel, find the intel. But at the same time, if they had the drone asset and there's an anti-aircraft battery, now you can't take the drone over there to recon it. Yeah. Trying to make it a little intricate and a little more in depth, but not so much that we're like going overboard on the Milsim Day
Look,
idea.
at least
Yeah.
you're trying. Like I think that's the direction that airsoft events have to go, in my opinion, is the experience. Like just getting an AO, and just being like, all right, we're gonna do it here now.
Well, that's
And then
my
it's
thing.
just-
Because
then
like,
it plays like a big open play.
because
Well,
I've
like,
played
what-
so many games at like Scranton, shopping malls. The prison game thing is a new thing that's popped up in the last 4 years. I've never played a prison. It doesn't sound fun to me, but it's like a lot
Well,
of.
you did at
No.
AMS Arsenal.
Yeah, the,
You played
the
it-
prison
you
in the
played it.
basement of that one building. I've played so many games at cool AOs where they just evolved to open plays. I feel like we could do more by just making it a little more intricate, like the Grimnir philosophy, because they did games at Skirmish and ran it fantastically.
Oh yeah, they did a great job. And you know what? Like the thing that got me even looking at airsoft. Well, there was Night Ambush in Utah, right? That's what everybody stumbles upon, and
Love that video.
right. But then after that, you start doing the research into like larger events, and back then, 2008,
Line claws.
Lions Claws. And if you look at the old videos when they were doing games at mount sites,
Yeah.
dude, you're watching dudes like shoot RPGs and shit. And it's special effects and all this shit. And you're like, wow, that is fucking amazing. And then all of a sudden, everybody just steered away from it.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, shit, even Milsim West used to do mortars.
right. Well, then the Milsim West arms race started. So the original Milsim West mortar where they did impacts and stuff, it was kind of the same thing we're hitting on right now, where we have a mortar prop.
Yeah.
And then game staff would, like lane walkers would go over and
Sure.
set off pyrotechnics, and everyone in that area would be dead. the Milsim West arms race started, and then Mayhem had the Gustav, and we had the AT4, and the Brits had their own mortar.
Yeah.
And because of that, they cut back on doing that because now basically the Milsim
player
West
base,
groups were pressing it for them. But even then, like, I can't remember the name of their team, but I have these two dudes, they're brothers, friends of mine from way back in the day, Johnny and Alex. They used to go to the Line Claws games at MUTC and Fort Knox every
Fort
year.
Knox. It was at Fort Knox.
He has a clip, and I'm gonna steal your footage, and I'm gonna put it on screen. I'll give you credit. Where they were at a Fort Knox game, and you like off in the distance, it was like 6 p.m. You see a little puff of a flame, and he goes RPG and dives out of the window that he's at, and a firework RPG hits the wall right in front of him and goes off. It's so fucking cool.
Like, that was the shit that got me into it. And then I remember when I played my first event, and it was a Lions Club event because that's the only thing we had, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I remember thinking, like, man, it's cool. I went to Northern Lights. It was my very first Airsoft event. And it was cool. It was a neat AO. But, like, none of that shit was there. None of the pyro, like, none of the effects, right? And I don't need to be the one throwing the grenade. That's not what it's for. It's eye candy, man. It's to set the atmosphere. And,
Yeah, like when they did Fort Knox games, they were lighting cars on fire.
yeah.
And
well,
like,
that's because Fort Knox.
yeah,
is
and
one
they
of
had
the
the
best
whole training
yeah.
facility, but their RPG was essentially the same RPG system we would use, where it was a model rocket
That's where I got the idea from.
on a line.
That's where I got the idea from.
It's cool as shit.
Yeah.
And
I think in terms of like the where I'd like to see Airsoft in the next 5, 10, 15 years is more a step in that direction. Create the atmosphere again. I feel like we lost the atmosphere, or maybe it was a marketing ploy, and certain clips were.
I think just the gear and the way airsoft guns was atmosphere enough when airsoft came in and started becoming
so
more
many
popular.
companies used to come in swinging because like
It used to be enough, I feel like, to just like, oh my God, there's night vision. There's these guns that looks like a real M4. There's like classes. There's snipers and LMGs. So, but now that like we're used to it, we're all jaded and spoiled. Now it's like, we need cooler stuff.
No, but
we can push it, so we should push it.
but I get what Dave's getting
the
at.
point I'm getting at is that the thing that got me really interested in Airsoft was seeing those videos with all the effects and the smoke. This is way back in 2008, right?
Yeah.
And then every event I've ever been to up until that Grimnir game
Didn't have
at Panthera didn't have any of it. It was almost a bait and switch. Now, I know those games were still going on in 2008, and so I just didn't go to those, right? But I went to the same producer.
correct.
Nothing.
Well, like my first, Dave and I clearly watched the same videos growing up. My first Line Claws game was in 2011. It was at a shopping mall. That was super cool because I was like 14 running around a shopping mall playing Airsoft. But I didn't get any of that. Like, there was no pyro. There was Thunderbees. There was no in-depth effects. But when you watched like, the Lion Claws Irene games.
Irene, that's what it was.
The Lion Claws games where they were doing them Irene switched between MUTC and Fort Knox every other year. But even like their games out on the West Coast where they used Blue Sky Movie Ranch. Every Airsofter that's played there has got the dream because they filmed like half of SEAL Team on CBS at that place, and Lion Claws plays Airsoft games there.
Yeah.
But they were doing effects. And maybe it's because the AO allowed it. But you were brought into this fold of like, I want to go to this game because of all this cool shit you got to see done.
Yeah.
And then you went to one and you're like, there's nothing here. You got scared throwing a Thunderbee at Red Storm East because you were going to get asbestos.
Oh, God.
Yeah, like people were running around in Red Storm East with respirators on because like there was lead paint and asbestos in this factory.
If you shined a laser inside that lace factory,
you saw the whole thing.
You saw the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
It was
like,
thick. But yeah, so that's what
not
got
a shit on Line Claws thing.
No.
That's just every producer was like that.
Sure, but it was like this huge. It wasn't a huge letdown, right? Because I was falling in love with the sport itself,
Correct.
right? So that kind of kept me going. But it's only till right now where it's kind of dawning on me that like it was at a level here, and in 2008 it was at this level, and it never kept going up. It's going down right up until that Grimnir game was the first time I saw anybody use any atmospheric effects.
Yeah.
Right. And then I hope that it starts going up again. I mean, Milsim West is completely different, right? It's not even Airsoft, in my opinion. That's an
their
experience.
whole shtick is that they're giving you an experience.
It's an experience.
A thought that I just had is one of the things that's hard to do more intricate games like that, when it comes to like player-based perspective, is if there's an absence. When I say absence, I don't mean like lack of ability. I mean even just lack of just manpower, just warm bodies to fill the role.
Yeah.
The lack of leadership and command structure.
Yep.
If you're just relying on the player base to have to learn how to use ATAC and get connected with it, or even know how to run their Baofeng radios and keep up with it, it's hard because there's not much of a plug and play solution for just having something on your phone to see what's happening to keep you up to date.
Yeah, but I'm always.
But at the same time, we didn't have that back then.
Yeah, that's true. But
this is a different time.
This is a different time. But I'm a big proponent for ops to never write. It's like when you're developing a video game, you should never develop your video game based around cheaters.
Tarkov.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
You should develop the game that you're going to make, and then everybody else catches up. The same thing. It's kind of the same mentality, right? I'm not saying that Airsoft shooters. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're saying like don't build the game around people that aren't going to learn how to use ATAC.
Correct. Build the game around what you want to build it around. And everybody's just going to learn or get fucked. Like.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you're constantly raising the bar up, and you're not bringing it down, right? Because I could be like, well, people don't like it when they bleed a little bit when they get shot. So now, okay, so 100 FPS for all guns.
Yeah, that's lame.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I think there's
Raise it,
some.
we should make it 500.
I think there's some way to meet in the middle.
Bringing that back.
500 FPS nomad.
not with events.
I think
Open play, yes.
I think with battle tracking related things, I feel like somebody can make an app. Like
Well, Grimnir
like
was using
5.
Dragon Force.
Dragon
Force.
Force is great, actually.
Yeah.
ATAC,
But I don't even think we need to base it around
and
that.
even
'cause
Tactical League's thing with the RFID and the way that they do the battle tracking is cool.
Yeah, but that's not live. That's not live.
Yeah. It
could
That's
be.
good for capture points. That's not good for player positioning. And actually, I do agree with you. This like
I think Grimnir's doing the best job as far as like
Well, Grimnir's not doing games.
they were.
I know.
They were doing the best
But-
job, Ian.
It's because we used Dragon Force a little bit for Benghazi.
Yeah, we had the staff on it.
And having that ability to see where everybody was and make changes to the game mid play without any of the players even knowing was fantastic. As an admin tool, fantastic. As a player tool, even better, right? Like being able to coordinate, because past events I went to Grimnir, we all had Dragon Force, and it was awesome, dude. You're like, okay, second squad's to our right, first squad's to our left. You can send a message, you can draw pictures, and everybody can see, and you're like, this is the way we're moving. And it worked. It freaking worked, right?
For events, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've gotten the same experience at MSW using ATAC. For open play, yeah, that's not.
Yeah, it might be a little much.
That's too much. You don't need it because like Johnny, Luke, and all them ran ATAC and like integrated radios one day here for open play. And I asked Johnny at the end of the day, I'm like, did it help? And he's like, no, it was annoying because it was open play. I already knew where everything was because it's an open play game. He's like, for events, yes, he could see it working.
Yeah.
Again, for AOs like the PA one for MSW, ATAC, great. For Benghazi, Dragon Force was fantastic. For large scale events like that, where they're big AOs, like 500, 1,000 acres, 100% fantastic. On a 78 acre play area where we're just trying to make games more intricate and we're trying to push the player base in a direction of a little bit more seriousness, having a little bit more fun with it. Maybe not that, maybe having staff on that so we can communicate in that way. I feel like it'd be much better to just start getting players into using radios so then they can have a command structure via the radio. We don't need to start implementing a GPS for that one. We just need to focus on leadership and actually having teams that communicate together. Because all of this shit that we just came up with would be super cool. But like the mortar strike, if the forward air controller doesn't have communication to the squad that needs it and they don't have communication to the team commander to say they're using it, there's a break in communication there. So you need to find a way to make sure that they actually communicate with each other and work together. Otherwise, this whole system is null and void.
When we did Crossroads,
Apparently apparently everyone's falling off with that.
this is what I have to say. And I guess this is where I'm getting at. When we did Crossroads, or Blood Diamond, I forgot which event it was.
The one that you played?
You played Blood Diamond.
No, you played Crossroads.
No, Blood Diamond happened in May.
No, it was Crossroads.
It was Crossroads.
Yeah.
Because I was coordinating with him I just remember a specific event.
Oh, that's right. You did play Crossroads
Yeah,
too. Never mind. I'm an idiot.
I was not like a squad leader or anything, but he ended up having to communicate with me because I had a radio that worked and we could talk. So
that's why I'm saying.
I had to set up everybody's radio on my team.
Okay.
And they came together with Balfangs and they weren't even able to communicate with each other. So I was like, all right, guys, menu. And like we just went through each item on the menu and I was like, set it to this, set it to that. I was like, all right, we should all be able to talk now.
I see the problem with this across the board.
We should make a video.
There's plenty of videos on how to program your Balfang. But what I'm realizing here.
They're by nerdy radio guys. And
you want me to streamline it.
Some people want to know like what a gear set is without me talking about every detail, just like, all right, this is how you do it for your team. Like,
well, all I'm realizing here now, it took a while for this to click. Everyone gets so into like their contacts and having the right push to talk, but to do this, you need to have this PTT and for it to work with a Balfang because the Balfang is the most popular radio. The Balfang is the part that fucks everything up.
Yeah, because it doesn't look cool. You're more focused on the cool shit.
Well, it's not even that.
Pictures.
The Balfangs are so hard to work with because there's so many settings. But the radio nerds are the ones that are making the push to talk so that Airsoft radios will work with real contacts.
Yeah.
So they're going to use the more complicated radio because every radio nerd knows how to program them.
Yeah.
Players just need to go back to using Motorola talkabouts where it's channels 1 through 24.
Just FRS. FRS.
The family radio system.
What's nice with the Balfang is like you can just straight up get a really long antenna and that will make a huge difference in just being able to talk across the field.
It will and it won't because different radio antennas are on different radio frequencies. Hi, I'm a radio nerd. So some are good for long distance. Some of them are good if you're in a densely populated or a densely vegetated area because radio signals travel different when they're going through tree lines or buildings and shit like that. And that's why there's a UHF and...
Remember when we used Balfangs for reffing?
Yep.
And like we couldn't communicate across the field?
Yep.
Now that you use the Motorola's, you guys can.
Correct. But those are expensive radios.
Right. But with my Balfang, because I have the longer antenna and I set the settings right, I can actually talk to the Motorola's across the field with no issue.
Yes.
I just whip out my antenna.
But it's not always, but it's not always about, it's not always about the length of the antenna. The length of the antenna has to be matched with
It's motion in the ocean.
The radio itself, right? You can't just put a 40-foot long antenna on there. It's got to be a 41.5 foot, depending on.
And you need higher watts. You need a higher, but
I get what you're saying.
The Balfangs are so cheap. Like it's actually so easy to just get Balfangs to work. And like literally like the one thing that makes it not work the most when I see airsofters that I'm playing with trying to get it together is just like that one setting that like the DTC or whatever.
Oh, CTCS.
The CTCS.
Yes.
They'll put the right frequency in.
But not the correct hertz.
Right.
Yes.
So then.
It's radio nerd shit. Yeah. Because by a fine line of technicality, the radios that we have, the Motorola's, are on an FRS frequency. Yeah. They're just on a different CTCS frequency. Yeah. So that's why I can make your Balfang work. That's why I can make my TRI 152 work with it. Alternatively, you just keep everything factory settings. You just go in, you hit the reset button so everyone's on the same factory settings, and then you just pick a frequency. That's
actually pretty smart.
That is the easiest way to make the Balfangs work here because then I don't have to sit there and put yours to Squelch 2 and then put your CTCS to 67 hertz and all the radio jargon that makes me sound like an autist because it's true. But
what about like narrow or wideband?
Okay, so specifically speaking from the aspect of we're right next to an airport where we get frequency feedback.
Remember when we had the Bowfangs for the staff,
and they would always get that like frequency. That's
I heard voices a couple times.
It's because of that, shit. And it's because the factory settings on Balfangs they're set to a wide band frequency. Yeah. If you were going to do it, in my head, reset your Balfang to factory settings, go to the bandwidth and turn it from wide to narrow, and then just pick a frequency so you guys could all be on that, and just stay in the 420 frequency hertz like realm because that's FRS frequency, so you can't get in trouble for using it. And it works fine out here. Sure, if you want to buy the bendable like Amazon $30 whip antenna, it looks cool. It is cool. It's going to work here fine. But the problem with the Balfangs, everyone wants to put those big whip antennas because JTACs use them and they look cool. The most fragile part of a Balfang is where the antenna connects to the radio.
Yeah.
So you have it on there and it doesn't have a gooseneck, so that long antenna is just like sturdy now. And it starts to wiggle around, and then it breaks the connection between your radio and the antenna connection point. And now your Balfang's broken.
Tyler has this thing. It plugs into the antenna, but it just redirects the antenna.
Yeah, it's a relocation cable. I have them for mine. So
built this decaf French.
the best thing you can do for your Baofeng for long-term use so that doesn't happen is to either use a relocation cable or use the like $20 whip antenna that is legitimately paper thin and you just flop it around and it wiggles everywhere, because those two will save your connection point. If you go to put the like long foldable 10-foot whip antenna on, all the Baofeng ones don't have goosenecks, so they don't bend. And that's what breaks your connection point.
Yeah, airsofters get really big into like the accessories of the radio itself.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
We talked about this on the podcast before, but like they're so big on earpieces, being stealthy, like they're crawling through the air vents in his top secret facility, and they got to be quiet. Like if you just have it in your pouch and you can grab it quickly and just talk, like it's not.
So I've tried all the. I hate wearing Peltors or contacts or whatever the fuck they.
The only reason I'm wearing them now is because it's cold out.
Yeah, I hate wearing them. I did a bone conduction mic for a little while. I liked it. It was very good quality on my end, transmitting out. But I just having that in your ear just sucks. Dude, I have a Code Red freaking boom mic, and I've said this before, I've never been discovered because of a radio transmission. And as staff, you guys have like this sixth sense. When I'm creeping up on somebody, you're like, hey, what do you guys want for lunch?
Yeah.
Like it just freaking happens.
You just turn it down.
No. I just put my hand over it and then go, because my radio pouch is on my back like a dum-dum.
The funny thing is the last time we talked about this, like the next weekend I was reffing and there was a kid who had a speaker mic.
Yeah.
And I as I was reffing, I was like, did I just hear a radio? Like I thought.
Oh, he's got the volume up too much.
No, it wasn't super loud. It was just like one of those like, that sounded like a radio. But then him getting on the radio going, guys, stop talking. They're going to hear me. I'm like, now I heard you.
Yeah. Okay, there's a man.
Yeah, there's a man.
Yeah, dude. And for any large scale event, like for instance, Crossroads was loud the whole game. It was actually a fantastic game. It was loud the whole time. So it wasn't like nobody's sneaking on anything, man. We were just hammer and anvil, dude.
Yeah, but I think if you want to implement short term more communication amongst players, that's the easiest way to do it. The ATAC thing is really cool, but that requires a lot more. Like I understand Dave's thing, just make it and they have to catch up or get fucked.
Yeah.
In terms of implementing it for right now, the easiest way to do it is use Baofeng. Just reset everybody's settings.
Well, also let's be super realistic too. Like anybody coming to an event here,
yeah,
generally speaking, plays here on the regular.
Yeah.
Nobody needs a GPS out here. They all know every stick and every leaf on the ground. Now, if we start doing offsite stuff, then it's a different story.
Yeah.
But for here,
I like the idea of getting the equipment I need so that if I do go to a bigger AO, I have what I need, and then I just test it out here.
Yeah,
but like
that's
having to
building
rely
your kit
on
with that in mind.
When you're here, the most practical use of a radio and talking to your team, like your squad, your buddies, is if you died and had to respawn and now you're separated and you're just trying to regroup.
Correct.
You're like, hey, where are you guys at?
yeah, that's it.
That's it.
You know?
Yes. And I think actually something that we should add to.
Then occasionally you can do call outs when it's practical, but
Correct. But this one, it just reminded me of that. Adding to the safety brief, the dead men don't talk, including that is also for radios.
I feel like that's talking.
Yeah. So the amount of players.
Isn't that talking?
Recently, it's been a problem.
All right.
Where like players have their cool, intricate radios.
what about calling medic over radio?
I have a follow-up question for that.
Interesting.
So recently I've had to correct a few players when I'm reffing or when I'm playing where they get got and then they're on the radio talking and I look at them and go, hey dude, you're dead. Don't do that. And they're like, what? And I was like, dead men don't talk. And they're like, well, I'm talking on the radio. I was like, dead men don't talk.
What was that first word you said?
Yeah, you're talking. I hate like that every time the safety brief gets longer, it's because somebody does something.
Yeah, I know.
Now looking at the safety briefing and watching the video and you realize it simply says dead men don't talk.
Yeah.
Adding
This includes using your radio.
That's silly.
I don't think you have to update the safety.
You're talking on your
but
radio.
That's the thing. It's like probably 3 or 4 times.
I feel like
Hey,
the
all right,
more
all right. Real quick. PSA, when you're dead, don't talk on your radio.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
The more little things that get added to the safety brief, that's not doesn't really pertain to
Then we
to
stop
safety.
being Zulu 24 and
Well, no,
continue to
they
be
just-
Protocol 24.
No, well, the safety brief becomes like a no skateboarding sign at like
Yeah.
an
Yeah,
outdoor
nobody,
mall.
nobody cares.
You know,
yeah.
it's like it's written down legally. Like the safety brief's not like a legal document. It's just like these are the rules of the game. Like that.
Yeah, maybe.
What if I
Following these rules will ensure
Well,
that you have
hold
a
on.
safe time and a great time.
maybe
we
it's
wanna
as
have a great
simple-
time.
Maybe it's as simple as just like next time we have a ref meeting, reminding everyone that, hey, that includes talking on the radio. So if you see it,
Yeah.
correct it.
or I make a bunch of like 100 signs, right? And all those signs just say like one sentence of the safety brief.
Yeah,
so you're
like-
just being constantly bombarded by it everywhere
Well, at
you
that
look.
point-
I had that thought, like put PSYOP propaganda signs across
Yeah.
the field, like you as Uncle Sam, like I want you to, you know.
Not talk when
Don't
you're
talk
dead.
on the radio.
Yeah.
Always wear a dead rat. You know, like shit.
That
like
would be up there with, I think Dylan.
That's actually a good idea. It's actually kind of funny.
I think Dylan brought it up recently. He's like, you guys should cut the safety briefing into like 60-second shorts and post those so that people see the rules. And I was like, I don't know. Dave always doesn't want to post the safety briefing video on
3
It's on the
minutes,
website.
180 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
No, but to circle back to your calling for medic on the radio, is saying medic yes, medic no.
Nope. I've corrected many people,
Yeah.
and actually during Crossroads, and some guy was doing that, and I was like, no, you can't communicate. It's really about communicating. You can't communicate to your team any intel that they wouldn't get with their own eyes, right? So, hit and medic. That's it.
Yeah.
And medic yes, medic no is blatantly communicating with your team that somebody's there and not. And I corrected a guy for doing that, and he looked at me like I had a purple dick on my head. And because wherever they play, that is the norm.
Yeah. That's
And
not
I was
cool.
like, no.
I remember
no.
at a AMS Arsenal, I had like got down in the woods and I'm yelling for medic, 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 right? And this guy comes up, he's like, I know that secret code. You can't fool me. I'm like, I'm calling for medic. And he was upset. He thought I was cheating. Like,
You said medic 3 times real
Yeah.
fast.
oh my God.
I was like, medic, like top of my lungs, medic,
Yeah.
medic. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't medic, yes, medic, no, it wasn't medic.
Yeah.
It wasn't like medic, you know, whoa, not cool, gang. Like,
I've seen that before though, where like if somebody gets
You got it.
yeah.
You got it in.
I didn't have the sunglasses on.
Oh. You have to do it again.
but I've seen. You're gonna have to send me the meme you want me to put over that.
Yeah.
I've seen that at other large scale events where like by screaming medic as loud as you can, it's signaling that there's a player right next to you. I've seen that.
See, but honestly, that's okay. I'm actually okay with that because there's some level of intellect behind that,
Yeah.
and you have to kind of be in the know.
Mm-hmm.
But any random rental gun who comes across a player saying medic no,
Yeah, they know.
there's no secret code there. Like, you know what I mean? There's
no special sauce.
Yeah, and there's no like
What do you think when they yell like red medic? They designate the team.
I don't do
that's
that.
fine. I
Yeah?
do that. I do that all the time just because, you know, when CQB lines get intermixed and I want the correct medic to come to me, you know, like
Oh, I just yelled medic because I've been buddy-aided by the other team more times than I can remember.
never here. But
Oh no, that's happened here.
no, for me,
yeah.
never hear it at big games. Yeah, but never hear it. But yeah, I'm okay with that. But that's just a team designation. That doesn't say there's bad guys here. You know, be careful when you come. You know, I have the worst brain in the world. I had like 4 senior moments yesterday, where like when I came in, I was like, "Where the fuck is my coffee?" Like,
And it was right next to you.
like in my brain, I'm retracing my steps. I don't ever remember going over there.
Or like when it was 3:00 and you told the refs to start packing up.
Yeah,
And I'm
what
like,
the
Dave,
fuck,
like
dude?
John Carlo comes in, he's like bringing the waters in. I go, oh, that's smart. Like start packing up early. And then he leaves his radio on the counter. I'm like, it's 3:10. Are you guys done? And you're like, no, it's 4:10. I'm like, Dave, it's 3:10. He goes,
I know.
shit.
I don't know. I just looked at my watch and I saw where the big hand was, disregarded the little hand. It just felt like the end of the day. I don't know.
Still had an hour to go.
I was flying by the seat of my pants, you know. But yeah, I have no recollection of what the fuck we were talking about.
Well, we were on the top. Like we moved very quickly through it, but we started.
talking about bow fangs.
Yeah, no, but we were.
We hit a good point where we like just finished what we had to say and we stopped. So we can go on with anything at this point.
It's true.
Well, I wanted to circle back because we had originally wanted to talk about AOs.
In the utilization of AOs?
Yeah. So like in terms of like we're seeing airsoft progress because like we see things like John's down at Full Auto doing speed soft leagues, and we see event companies like MSW like doing more intricate events, and we saw what Grimnir was doing. We see airsoft branching out in all these different directions and like where we see it going over the next couple of years. Do we see more companies going with the idea of, hey, let's do an event? Maybe it's not the coolest place in the world, but we're going to put a lot of work into it. Or is it just going to continue to be this, like, we're getting old, complexes and areas where it's like, it'll be cool to run an open play airsoft game here?
I think it'll be easier to get an old rundown place, right?
Yeah.
Because I think more and more property owners are kind of becoming aware.
Yeah.
So instead of like demoing whatever structures were there until something new happens, they keep them up and rent them out to these. I mean,
Airsoft companies, movie companies,
right? Yeah.
Production studios, stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, why have a vacant lot that's doing nothing but representing cost when you can keep whatever structures are there, obviously ensuring that insurance and all that stuff's in place, and make some income.
Kind of like the Spirit Halloween method.
Yeah,
where they just rent out the carcass of an old Kmart.
Yeah, they're in and out.
Yeah.
Like.
Except they're less efficient than Spirit Halloween.
Yeah, well,
it's
it's
true.
It's a 1 weekend a year airsoft game.
Yo, fucking Spirit Halloween competes with U.S. military logistics with how
I think
efficiently
we've all
they
seen
set up.
that Fat Electrician video.
Do you watch Fat Electrician?
Yeah.
Do you watch the video? I fucking love his videos, man.
Yeah,
he is
great.
awesome. He deserves everything he gets.
But like,
He
because
works hard.
we've seen both ends of it. Like MUTC, Guardian Center, Camp Shelby. These are all really cool places to play, but that's because there's government money funding those facilities.
Yeah, and I think that's the pinnacle, right? I don't know what would top those.
Oh man, like you said,
I know what would top. Actually,
renting out an entire town.
Renting out an entire town. Yeah, like I went to New Paltz the other day to pick up B-Side Grill. Sponsor us. I love your burgers.
Give us money.
And I was just walking down Main Street, and it was nighttime, and it was kind of nice, brisk outside. I mean, there weren't college kids there. Thank God.
It's
And-
shocking because it's
Too cold.
And it was like kind of vacant. And I was just imagining like New Paltz isn't a huge town.
No, and
It's not a small town either.
no, but it's got that small town vibe where like
Yeah.
sidewalks, everything's super close to each other. Like,
Right? It's got a proper main street.
Also, if I'm correct here, New Paltz is one of those towns in this area where like they have a ban on chain establishments. Everything there has to be small.
Man, not really. Like
I remember reading that at one point. I know they have a
there's
couple.
a McDonald's. There's
Yeah,
a
like they're
Burger
getting
King.
a little more loosey goosey with it.
You throw money around, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden these anti-capitalists become capitalists real quick.
Yeah.
But
Fuck.
yeah, got him. But running a game like that, right? So this is total fantasy world, right? So you pay the money, and it's going to be an extraordinary amount of money, right? To rent the whole town or village or whatever the fuck. Everybody who lives, works, breathes, eats, shits in that town still does those things. Just for these 2 days, they do it with iPro on, right? And maybe you provide the iPro. I don't know how this would work, right? And maybe everybody signs waivers, or maybe they all go on vacation. I don't know. But fully populated town, still doing town shit. But like there's a fight happening.
So, hear me out. I love that idea.
Be fucking wild.
I feel like that would, in a realm of expectation,
Yeah, it would never happen. but-
totally never going to happen.
Yeah.
But I follow a couple photography and videography pages, and every now and then they pop up with like, hey, check out this completely abandoned town in Pennsylvania. Where
Sure, but it doesn't have
it doesn't have that vibe. It's
the
more-
lived in.
Yeah, right now because of
functional-
the way that like these are like old mining towns that have been abandoned
Yeah.
since like the 60s, 70s. So it's older infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's got more of like a stalker vibe where everything's
Yeah.
overgrown. But that would be more realistic and obtainable for like an airsoft event. Because we saw it with MSATO. They had an event in PA. They've had a few where like rented out old honeymoon resorts.
Yeah.
Where they rented out old, not a mining town, but like mining facilities. I remember seeing it. It was like Ops Stonewall or something. I had a couple friends go to it, and they were like, it was cool. Everything was too close. It needs to be a little bit more spread out.
Yeah.
but like those old rundown towns in PA, like that would actually be obtainable.
The town we stayed in for MUTC
The Indiana town, yeah.
was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, but
there was nothing around it.
Yeah. That was like town starts, town stops.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
20 miles till the next one.
And it had like all the token stuff, like the school, the hospital, the one repair shop for your car, the one general store. Like it was pretty cool.
Kind of like the same Camp LaGuardia.
Yeah,
I like LaGuardia. That's
LaGuardia's cool.
That was one of my favorite AOs that Lion Claws used because it had a little bit of everything. Like you had the gas station, you had the roads, you had the trails in the woods, you had the overgrown areas around the barracks buildings. Then you had that tight knit CQB where it was like multi-story buildings, the
complex
complex
buildings. Yeah.
Multi-story buildings. Like some of them had individual rooms, some of them were big open rooms. Like that was, to me, that's a balanced AO.
Did you ever play there?
No.
I've played the least amount of.
It's like 4 minutes down the road too.
Yeah, I can put some videos on screen of the last time we went there. That is a super cool AO that was utilized actually really well.
Yeah,
What's the AO called?
It's called Camp LaGuardia.
Camp LaGuardia.
It's now
It's
owned
4
by
minutes down the road.
It's like 20. It's like
close.
Yeah,
Like
like
you run games there.
I'm gonna put you on the spot right now.
Yeah.
well, to be honest with you, it's because of the way that it was handled when it was run. The town now has a very bad taste in their mouth for that.
Yes, but the ownership changed hands and it might have gone to the county. Actually,
so-
Sean would be the one to ask about.
Yeah, so now there's a lot more red tape involved. And there have been a lot of people that have snuck in there over the time and done stuff. And I'm not talking airsofters, which, yeah, that did happen once. I'm talking like kids go in there and, loot.
Was it an insane asylum?
It was a girls' reform school.
That's right.
Yeah. So it was an old girls' reform school in the 90s, I think.
I'm sure there's some needles there.
Yes, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
That homeless people, go in and do some stuff.
There'd have to be a safety walkthrough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also
Yeah.
glass. I just remember glass. Everywhere.
Yeah, I got stitches because of that AO.
Yeah.
I was crawling on the ground in a room and I had a piece of glass puncture straight through my arm.
Yeah.
But it's a very cool AO, and that's one where, yes,
It's like high walkways and stuff.
you can get
That's
on the
actually
roof
really
of some
cool.
buildings, but that's one of those AOs where it was advertised properly. It was a good AO. It wasn't just, oh, hey, come play Airsoft at this abandoned facility. Like there was a game there and it was fun and it was a good balanced game.
Yeah, it was actually a decent game.
Where we see there's things like shopping mall games and prison games and stuff like that. You look at it and you go, oh, that's going to be really fun.
So caveat, I have never been to a shopping mall game. I've never been to a prison game. However, I can use my fancy little brain to picture the layout of both, right? So a prison is designed to keep people in, which means funnels, right? Shopping malls are designed to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Keep you in.
So I've played 2 shopping mall games and I've gotten both ends of the spectrum. So my very first Lion Claws game in like 2011, 2012, that time frame was at a pristine, like you cleared out the Poughkeepsie Galleria and that was it. Like everything was in nice order. There was no broken glass. It was very clean. Like it looked like they left the week before and now we're playing Airsoft here. That was the mall we played in. It was fun because you got to the experience of like, oh, I'm playing in a shopping mall. But then you learned very quickly, it's just hallways. It's just long hallways and big open areas between stores. So Speedsoft wasn't a thing back then, but looking at it now, it turned into Speedsoft.
Yeah.
It was dudes in milsim kits running really fast across open areas and sliding because the floor is slick. And then they, smash into a wall and get shot. And somebody complains, I shot you, you shot me. That was the game. Kind of sucked.
What it seems to me is like when event producers secure what could be a really cool AO,
Yeah.
there's no real game to back it up. Or if event producers come up with all these crazy intricate props, the game being centered solely around their props ends up not being the greatest game.
Yeah.
That balance is really hard to find.
Yeah.
Well, props.
That's why I love Grimnir games.
Grimnir.
They do it so well. Like, and Benghazi, you guys collabing together, that was insanely good.
Well, that's why I bring up, because the second shopping mall game I went to, yeah, we're just gonna. The second shopping mall game was kind of that, where it's like, cool, we secured this cool mall AO. Also, this mall is being torn down in a month, so you can destroy it. So
that changes the dynamic a little bit.
it changes the dynamic a little bit, and I got some cool stuff for it. But looking back on it, so like I remember the second iteration of the day because it was one of those events where it was broken up 4 hours, take a break, 4 hours, take a break. The second iteration was both teams are essentially fighting over this one large pelican case in the middle of the mall. And by securing it, you got your team points. There wasn't capture points. There wasn't flags. There wasn't secure areas. That was the only objective. We took it in the first 20 minutes. We still got 3.5 hours left.
Well, shit.
So
You should have put it back.
Yeah. So because of that, now it was just a big open play in a mall. Now that one was fun because again, they were tearing the mall down in a month. There's videos of us punching holes in walls and you were told you could bring breaching tools. So there's dudes that had Halligans rip them off their back and they would just hit the fucking glass in a store, take the window down and throw a grenade in. That's cool. But again, are we just hiding a game behind a cool AO instead of putting the effort in to make it a more complex game and a more intricate game?
I'm sorry. I just had a crazy idea, right? And this is me flying off topic a little bit, but you said breaching doors. I just thought like, what if we put doors on the field, right? And they're doors on hinges, but we have really strong magnets holding the door closed. So like you have to like smack it open.
What is
like you have to breach it, you have to kick it.
In your monkey brain? You just said it. When you come to a closed door, what are you going to do?
Knock?
No, you're going to kick it.
Yeah,
right.
But like,
what's on the other side of that door?
A player,
a rental player. It's his first day, and he gets smashed in the face with a door. If you look on the center door, we used to have 2 double doors on the center of the school. We did that for an op.
Yeah.
They are destroyed because everybody kicks a door.
To be fair, those were very thin doors. They were hollow.
No, the 2 on the center were solid wood doors.
Oh, no, you're right. Okay,
panels,
yeah, you're right. I was thinking about,
And we just left them up after the event was over
Right.
just to like see what would happen. And within 2 weeks, they were destroyed.
There was...
So in order to make a door that can be kicked 17 times a day, it's got to be thick and sturdy. But then you've just created a giant weapon.
A physical weapon.
There's got to be a way to design the entrance so that maybe it's hard for somebody to stand there.
Nope,
No,
they will find a way.
No, because you have to be able to walk through it once you kick it
Or they're
open.
going to hold the door shut, right?
Yeah.
So now you got that.
And that comes into the argument we hear at every event that has doors and windows. Don't manipulate doors and windows. Once the door's open, the door stays open. Once the window's open, the window stays open.
The person holds the door. So what's the guy on the other side? Oh, he's holding the door. I got to hit it harder and harder and harder and harder. And then
I literally have a clip from that second shopping mall game where a dude did that.
Damn it, airsofters.
He held the door.
That's why I'm
physically closed.
IWA certified to get breaching charges.
How dare you? How dare you? He took my dreams.
This dude physically, and it was a big dude, held the door closed. And it was very funny watching because Eric Colton was with me, watching like 18-year-old Eric Colton try and push this door open and it's not happening. So he's like, Joey, will you hit this fucking door? And I like come over. I hit the door so hard, it cracked the glass on the window. And then the dude got mad. He's like, why'd you have to do that? I'm like, why'd you have to hold the door closed?
Yeah, see.
Don't manipulate doors and windows.
Anytime that 2 players from opposite teams have to interact verbally with each other, it's like always bad. So
yeah, it was toxic.
You know, it does work really well though, and it's lame, but like, remember the fabric?
The curtains.
The curtains.
Yeah.
It works well. It's safe. It still blocks visual. Nobody's going to instinctively kick a curtain. You know,
You're going to push it out of the way.
Yeah.
It was the clip I showed you yesterday.
Yeah, we were watching an old clip from.
The only con with curtains is like the whole, I shot you and I shot, would have went through the curtain thing.
It was
I see that happens sometimes. With
Nobody
curtains.
says that.
I've had a player say it on the field because the curtains are still on the 2-story buildings.
Yeah.
And they're like, ref, like you're hitting the curtain. I'm like, cool, it's a BB, man. It didn't go through the curtain.
We're playing Airsoft. This isn't real.
I mean, when somebody shoots me through a curtain, I take it.
Okay, get off your high horse.
Well, no, I just like
it's for my training.
It's not even that. It's I mean, I should let myself die. I should not pussyfoot around the fact that I made a mistake.
Well, then every time you're in a building and somebody shoots it, you should die because that round went straight through that.
What's the attrition rate in CQB, man? That's just what's going to happen. Yeah,
75%.
Anthony and his high horse would do better.
It's not even that, dude. It's just like, I don't know. I'm not trying to argue with somebody over who shot who.
Yeah, but that is a 1% of the 1% argument. I'm saying like
it's very rare.
The whole doorway debacle, like that causes problems.
Yeah.
Small scale, big scale, it causes problems in the same way that like
you could do it for events.
Yeah.
For that one day or whatever the fuck, but
it would be cool.
Actually, we put them on because we blew doors off.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, there was some of the buildings in CQB you put doors on were like paper thin.
Yeah, the 2 that we were going to blow were paper thin.
Because I remember watching a player kick one shortly after this event. His foot just went straight.
Yeah.
It was like,
they were like trailer park doors.
Yeah.
They were
they were hollow.
Hollow core doors.
Yeah.
I want to, on that same note, real quick, I'm going to order one of those door charges. From
Yeah?
IWA, yeah.
We can play around with it.
Yeah. Might
What
get
if-
two. They're only $40.
What if for an event where like you want to add a dangerous element to it, like a potentially hazardous thing, like a door that you can breach, you just make
Sure.
like an 18+ game, and
It doesn't always work, but yeah.
No. But
So I have done this in the past. So long time ago, I can still remember. Okay.
demonetized.
Yeah. Before I was a part of Zulu, I ran an op at Zulu. And gosh, I can't remember the name of it. But IEDs were involved. And you could disarm the IEDs. And when I mean IEDs, I mean I bought the same pyro we used for Benghazi to the mortar attack, those, right? So it was like those.
One of those went off right next to me at Benghazi.
Yeah, because I threw it down. I was like, oh shit, Jordan.
It went off, and Dave.
What's up?
I didn't see you down there, dude. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. It was cool as fuck.
Just reaches his head over. He's like, "You alive?"
You good? Get the footage? No.
you got fucked up at Benghazi, dude. Your hand got melted on your blank fire scar.
Yeah, my hand got
blown up.
melted. And Dave set off a fucking pyrotechnic mortar right next to me by accident.
You were fine.
Jordan has flashbacks.
Only to how cool that was, because all of that was fucking dope. I burned my hand because Tyler and Connor can remember this one. I was standing there at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I was just like, do I bring it? Do I not? And they're like, what do you got to do? And I was like, I got to go take a shit. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, do I bring my gun? And they're like, bring your fucking gun. I walk outside and I look and I'm like, why is everybody at the checkpoint dead? Oh, that's Op 4 in the compound. Just do a fucking rip with blank fire. I was like, all right, everybody's up now. I'm going to go poop. And I come back and they're still in that gunfight. So I dumped like 3 or 4 mags and then I fucking fell. And I wasn't wearing my gloves because I had just taken a poop. And scar barrel sliced my hand.
Got him.
Yeah.
So for that game, there were IEDs. And so as a part of that game, there was EOD, right? And these were players. But before the event had started, I did like a training with them. And I literally told them, I was like, look, these will explode. Like this is like, you don't want to fuck around with this. This is real. Okay. For all intents and purposes, it probably wouldn't hurt them, but for all intents and purposes, this is real. And I showed them how to safely disarm it, right? By following the wire and removing the power source and then doing the other things, right? So their first step was basically cutting all power to it. And that basically made it inert. And it worked okay. It worked okay. The only issue we had is that it was a severe drought. And this is at the old field.
Right.
Severe drought. I think we were using bottle rockets
Holy shit.
as RPGs. There's a video somewhere of Mario holding an RPG that I built and then somebody lighting a bottle rocket. That part looks lame, but when it comes out and goes, it's awesome. So anyway,
I do not have that video.
it's somewhere. I maybe it's on my Facebook page. I have to scroll back in time. But so that game had a lunch break. And there was a food truck, I think, back then. And we were all at the food truck. And then somebody looked over. Everybody's off the field. Somebody looked over and was just like, man, that's a lot of smoke. And I was like, oh, somebody threw a smoke grenade out there. And I was looking. I was like, that's a lot of smoke. And we start walking. Did you ever play at the old field?
Yeah.
Okay. We start walking through CQB, and I get towards the end of CQB, and there's a freaking like forest fire happening. We're like, oh shit! and everybody like,
Grab your e-tools, kids.
no. We had those big 55-gallon drums,
Yeah.
and they were just full of rainwater because we've been there for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so, dude, we were like rolling them, and like, and I'm watching because right now it's just all like the leaves and shit on the ground, but it's like it is an alarmingly large fire that we're like in 5 minutes I need to call. Fire department. And I'm watching the fire creep up this tree. And I'm like, oh God, like, here we go. And so like 15, 25 people just like picking up 4 or 5 people, picking up the 55-gallon drums and just dumping it out on this. And we put it out. And then after that, I was like, whoa, not cool. Fam.
Whoa.
I had never heard that story.
Yeah. Yeah. We almost burned down all of Tolman Road. Like it was, dude, it was. And you know what's funny is the day prior, I was out testing the IEDs, right? And I wasn't like, because we had them in like coffee, like the metal coffee containers, right? Because we wanted to kind of contain it. And also I wanted the effect to go up and not out. You know?
Or create shrapnel. Go on.
Yeah. Right. So, but when I was testing it, I just threw it on the ground.
You made a boom too, right?
Oh, do you remember for Benghazi at night when you guys fired the mortars at us?
Yeah.
The effect on our end?
Yeah.
That's what I was using.
Gotcha.
So,
What if you buried those? Okay, go on.
so I set one off and it wasn't in a coffee can. So all the sparks and everything just did a 360 degree fucking, and there was a ring of fire. And it was me and I think one of my buddies was out there, and we were like, oh, fuck. like we made a fire break. So we let it all burn, but we just made a fire break around it. Because like we're not going to be able to go around and put it out fast enough. So we basically just raked it all up into a pile and burn. And that's when I was like, ooh, it's real dry. Like, so that entire event, I was eagle-eyeing everything. And I think it was one of Mario's bottle rockets that started that fire. It was so dry. It was such a dumb
a good safe prop if you want like a firebomb. When we filmed, when my band filmed our music video here, the guys that were doing the film production, Pop Films, they came up with this cool idea. They saw it online, and it's really safe. You take paper, duct tape, and you get like black powder, like gunpowder, and you take like the remote starter for like a bottle rocket, and what you do is you make this little charge, and you just bury it under dirt, just dirt. Make sure all the rocks are cleared out of the way.
Yeah.
Right. But there's really, even if there were rocks, there'd be nothing really containing it. It just makes a fireball pop up, and it looks really cool.
Yeah.
And just from a distance, you could set it off. And we did that. And I was like right next to it. I was the one setting it off in the video. I mean, it's pretty cheap and safe, and it looks sick.
So I'm not talking.
As long as there's not a drought.
Yeah.
Because it is fire. Like when we did that down by trenches, and we weren't expecting the fireball to go up so high. And I genuinely thought we were going to start burning down trees when we set it off. But
Well, I'm thinking from a VFX standpoint, but two from a gameplay aspect. That would also be cool for an event if we could figure out remove the fire aspect, because some explosions they hit, they're not a big fireball. It's more of like you see the debris flying and like the concussive force of it, maybe a little bit of smoke, like something like that, a little more buried and like directionally straight up, so it almost looks like an impact on the ground as opposed to a fireball. That could be cool for simulating fire or having some kind of charge go off so that players just get the atmospheric effect.
Like a set event.
Yeah. Or it's like, hey, like
even for a door charge, right? Like you could rig something up where the player takes an inert device, puts it on the door, they retreat to a safe distance, and then the staff sets off this effect.
Yeah.
And that's like the door being breached. But
you could also take like white Play-Doh, and then you could put some type of like simple little pyro charge in it. So it looks like C4. Like you just stick the Play-Doh to something. It's not C4.
Yeah.
No.
You eat the Play-Doh.
That's kind of like with Dylan and I, because like we were trying to figure out bomb props, and you've heard us talk about this already.
Yeah.
The bomb we have is really cool. It's really intricate. We like that we can adjust the time on it, but making it a little bit smaller, making it a little bit more streamlined, so it like would be directly for that game.
Yeah.
And Dylan and I were going through. You could buy on Etsy; they already have them printed out, or you could just download it and print it out. The packaging for C4, like the wrap that goes around it.
Oh yeah.
The brown label. And you could just go to Home Depot and get like clay putty, or you can get like white Play-Doh, and you can make a brick and wrap it in that. So then we could put a little timer on it, and like it looks like a C4 charge.
We just have to be careful with how real it looks.
Yeah. Well, so in the terms of, because like when we first talked about it, Dave was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool," but like it's small. Like part of the pizzazz, if you will, with the bomb prop is that it's so big and cumbersome. Like you have to carry that. Like you have to transport it. And we're like, yeah, we could do that. We could just make like 10 or 12 of those bricks so it looks the part, like it's a milsim like thing, and then you can still wire it up to like, hey, you have to hold the arm button for 45 seconds, 90 seconds, however, to get it to arm for stuff like that. So then we could make a bomb that looks more on brand and still has those features. It'd be pretty easy. But doing stuff like that, you could do some kind of door charge too.
Well, I'm going to order those IWA door charges.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how those go.
They're trainers, so there's no, but there is,
there's some potential there too.
there's a boom that happens with it.
Well, I'm just thinking for like a video work standpoint for like a promo for an event, that'd be real cool to use.
I think it would be cool to train up a breacher for a specific set piece moment in an event, right?
Yeah.
And somebody who is
Trusted.
and you know, they're not going to fuck around, right? Because at the end of the day, the IWA door charge it's a trainer,
It's still dangerous.
but it's got a charge in it. Like
Yeah.
it has an effect, right? That would be something really cool for them to experience, for the people providing security to experience, because it's visual and audio. You know, it's not just him cutting a wire or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then whoever breaches afterwards, they're like breaching through the smoke and everything, you know, kind of like the shit we did with Tim up here.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we have some experience with that.
Yeah. His shit was like way dangerous.
I was
Like,
standing way too close to not be wearing hearing protection.
yeah, dude, that shit was much
That
different.
was-
but
but that is cool. And from that whole aspect, I still have that video too. I could put it on screen so they could see it.
yeah,
There's so much potential there in terms of a gameplay aspect. I don't know. It gets me going. It gets me super excited.
yeah. There's some cool stuff there. But yeah, I don't know what's going with that.
Yeah.
Oh, that cool fit.
You want to debate?
I think we've had a debate. I also think we're pushing on 2 hours.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
This has been a great one.
Do we have an ad read?
We do not. He has not answered me about it.
Do you have a player submitted ad read?
We do not. The players have not continued on with that.
A gag read?
God bless America.
Oh, well, actually, hold on, because we did talk about some stuff for players submitted, and I could put this in at any point in the podcast. Do we want to start the idea of the Are You a Normie segment?
Describe to me how we do this without offending a bunch of people.
Oh no, this will 100%. So
Is it like a roast my kit type of thing?
sort of, not quite. It's a roast the community thing. So there's a podcast, and this was an idea given to me by Sean. I have listened to this podcast before. It's called the Are You Garbage Podcast, where it's like you submit a topic and it's like, are you a garbage person? If.
Jesus Christ.
Now, the idea he gave me is like a parody. It's a parody of
Are
that.
you a waste of space?
Are you a normie if? And the whole thing is like, are you a normie if? And then,
If you wear really bad Chinese multicam that's pink.
or are you a normie if you wear multicam black when it's 100 degrees out and 95% humidity?
Oof.
You know, stuff like that. So where then we can turn that into a mini sort of debate, I guess would be the proper term, where like somebody comes up and is like, are you a normie if you run around with 15 attachments on your gun? And you guys start roasting me. But I'm like, no, fuck you. Everything on my gun has a use. And then I grab my M4 and I'm like, look, this is my light. This is my pack. This is my can. It's got the smoky wolf in it.
Here's my
And
second light. Here's my second pack.
light. Here's my thermal that I get to
my
use
backup.
when it's dark out. Like stuff like that. Like it can turn into an argument or debate. But we also have debate topics. We went for a little while between the drones and the AOs, and producers used to do high production pyrotechnics, and then it turned into just hiding games with cool AOs.
Yeah.
Like, so I think we covered the debate topic there. But the question is, do we want to start putting it out there for players to submit for the Are You a Normie section? Or we also have the idea of players submitted game ideas, game mechanics, and other things like that in reference to the orange smoke as a toxic gas cloud, where we can go over and critique the idea, talk about why it would be a good idea or why it wouldn't work.
I got a good one
You got a good one?
for Are You a Normie?
Are You a Normie? Okay.
Yeah, like we can have the Are You a Normie segment.
We just talk about one. We just talk about one.
Yeah.
Right? It's like kind of caps the episode.
Yeah.
We just talk about one. Oh my God.
But that's something where we have to like look at the camera and be like, hey, we're going to be starting a section on each podcast called the Are You a Normie section, where you guys get to drop in the comments below your ideas. Are you a normie if, and then give us your idea. So then we can sit here and debate it.
I'll start us off.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to offend people.
Yeah. But a little bit of violence goes a long way.
It's okay.
I apologize on behalf of Zulu 24 and all staff.
The views and opinions expressed here.
I'm blinking. I'm doing this against my will. But, dude, okay.
Well, we don't have to do that.
No, let's do it. I wanna hear it.
No. So who's the pilot who got shot down in the Gulf War? And he was like reading the thing like, I am being taken care of. But he was blinking freaking Morse code.
Yeah.
That takes 2 brains to do. I just want to point that out. That's amazing. But so here it is.
You're not talking about the Black Hawk Down one, are you?
Unknown. Shields. Riot shields. Are you a normie if you are using a shield.
I think you're a normie if you even ask
So,
if it's a good idea.
First, let's define.
Case closed.
Let's define what a normie is.
I will pull up the Urban Dictionary. Hold on. I will pull up
Dictionary.
Urban Dictionary.
Let's define a normie. Because I have my idea of what a normie is.
Case closed.
Normie. Okay, Urban Dictionary. A person gravitating to social standards, accepting practices and fads of their own time and a geographic group without border cultural perspectives from which they draw. Normies possess a lack of interest in ideas not easily accessible or being outside of their society's current range of acceptance. A straight follower. That's what a normie is.
So I don't think that applies in the airsoft.
The second definition on Urban Dictionary, a normie is a person who holds the popular opinion not because they have any reason behind it, but just for the sake of being
Here we
the
go.
majority.
Here we go. ChatGPT gave me a airsoft specific definition for normie.
Yeah.
This is going to be what it is. An airsoft normie is someone who is casually interested in airsoft but lacks in-depth knowledge or experience with the sport, gear, or technical aspects. They typically play occasionally, may not be familiar with advanced tuning, tactics, or equipment, and often stick to off-the-shelf replicas without modifications. Unlike dedicated enthusiasts or techs, normies are more focused on casual fun rather than performance, realism, or competitive play.
It's closer. I feel like we all know what it is.
Yeah. Like we
can't articulate it.
We use the term normie NATO
Yeah.
to describe people playing NATO at MSW for the first time.
Sure. I think overall lack of
Like the
experience.
unit,
Yeah, I was
like
gonna
the
say lack of
basic. I got it surplus off eBay.
Yeah.
Multicam blouse.
It's a cross draw
Like
because
it's
better.
hard to put an exact definition on. Like it's the kid that you look at and you're like, all right, you haven't been doing this long enough to know better.
Yes.
So are riot shields normie? Is that a normie thing? Riot shields.
Yeah, and I'm talking about the full spectrum of riot shield.
I'm talking about the evike.com riot shield. That is truly a riot shield. That is for beating a college kid in the face. That is not for blocking bullets. So when you show up at the field because it was on sale for $35 and you're like, ref, can I use this? I look at you, I sigh, and I go, no.
You know, when I was getting into airsoft, MW2 was still.
Yes, and that is
like-
partially why it's so popular.
And in
is
MW2
made it bulletproof.
In MW2, the riot shield, yeah, it was like the EVIC riot shield, and it was bulletproof. You know, it wasn't a vamp shield or whatever.
No, like Milsim West, they do utilize it properly. If you want to use a ballistic shield, it has to be the Vance shield, which weighs a fuck ton.
Now, even at Milsim West, is the guy using the proper shield, is he a normie?
No, because they had to spend a lot of money and they actually have to utilize it properly.
Yeah.
So at Milsim West, if I remember correctly, they are not allowed to advance forward while under fire, and they are not allowed to shoot from it while moving. So like the operator could have a Glock. He can't shoot while he's moving the shield. Also, to be fair, it's so heavy, he probably couldn't if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And when that person is hit, they have to put the shield down. So even then, I don't know if there's a respawn timer on it. Like they can only respawn with the shield once every hour. I remember hearing something like that. I don't think that's the case, but a direct tag to the shield will kill the operator. And then a grenade, obviously, behind the shield will kill everyone behind it. So like they utilize it well because it also has to be the legit heavy ass Vance shield. In terms of a normal airsoft environment, the kids that come up with like the Evike riot shield, or I've seen this one too, they take a piece of sheet wood and put a handle on the back and then cut a hole out for their eyes and put plexiglass there. A for effort, B for no, because you're a normie. Like,
I think it's a normie thing because I only ever thought it could be a cool idea when I was 13 years old. And then I turned 14 years old.
like we have one, and it's for refs.
for the refs.
It's for refs. And honestly,
shot in the
most of us never use it. I think the only one I've seen use it is JoJo, and he uses it when he goes into the corner of the embassy and he just like sits behind it.
Yeah.
Like if you actually want to play airsoft with that, no, wrong. Absolutely not.
So I'll give you the standpoint from Zulu 24 Airsoft Park. It's mobile cover.
Yeah.
And mobile cover never plays well. It's always an argument because we did allow them back in the day. And it was almost like it was just as influential as going to semi-auto only.
Yeah.
Like it had that much of an impact, right? Like a guy with a shield has mobile cover And then you like, okay, like the first time you're just like, yeah, you can use the shield. And then the argument is we'll just shoot his legs, but then he crouches behind,
Yeah, but then he gets shot in the toe, so he puts the shield on the ground so he doesn't get hit again. And
Yeah,
he's just
exactly.
like, you hit me, bro. It ripped the shit off the ground. Yeah,
And
come
And
on,
also
man.
them having the shield and then sticking a hand out,
Yep.
and they're just like closing in on you.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's a gun hit. It hit the gun. No, it hit your fucking knuckle. Like,
There's definitely a certain mentality to somebody who wants to play with a shield, but
they are the main character.
well, something like that.
I like this as a Normie segment.
But so from a field standpoint, it creates issues. And every time I get a phone call, which doesn't happen that much, but just so happens that
It's like one of
Saturday I
those-
got a phone call about a shield. It just so happened. I'm sorry. It always causes problems. Always. And we've tried specific rules like, if you get shot twice in the shield or whatever, then
Yeah, but
you
now
have
they
to
gotta
throw the
count.
shield. Now you have to count, and then you lose count.
making it more
And if you got shot once up at mosque, but now it's an hour later, you haven't died, but you got shot down here. Does
Oh,
that
that's
count as
total
two?
bullshit. You're never getting shot just once.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but either way, like, does it count or does it reset after a certain time? Like, it's just.
That's the same player that asks if they wear ballistic plates if they could take an extra BB to the chest.
I played one event
Oh, don't.
where that was a rule.
Don't try and tell me it was good.
No,
Okay, good.
it was absolutely terrible.
I was going to be like, that's a terrible idea.
no. You know what it caused? Overshooting like crazy.
Yeah.
Because everybody was just like, oh, well, I have to shoot him more than twice to kill
Like,
him.
the games like MSW where they say like, hey, if you're wearing ballistic plates, you get a second tourniquet.
Sure.
That makes sense. Like,
It's an
it gives
abstract,
you a benefit for carrying the weight.
Sure.
Much in the same way that the semi-auto rule now makes it so if you are going to carry an LMG, you get the benefit of shooting full auto. Like, there's a balance to it.
Sure.
The players that are like, well, I've got AR 500 steel, like 8.5 pound plates. And I'm like, wow, that sucks.
Cool,
for
you broke
man.
your ribs as soon as
Yeah.
he shot you in the chest.
They're like, can I take an extra BB to the chest? I'm like, no, you can't. That makes you a normie.
well, I don't know, but there's definitely a mentality behind somebody who wants to use a shield. It's a very defensive mentality, and it never works. It doesn't play well. It's almost like an Airsoft S vest. There's no way to make one that's like good.
It speaks to the lack of experience.
You don't want to strap 7 Thunderbeast to yourself
Yeah, right. Like,
and have to pull all the pins.
It speaks to the lack
one
of
second.
experience. Yeah.
One second. So there was a guy who made an S vest, but he used the party poppers.
Oh, that's funny.
So it was kind of humorous.
There's some merit there.
But it still played like dookie because he just walked up and was like, ha, like, come on. It's like that. Like,
I would have
Airsoft
laughed if he
shields
at
just
least
don't.
put glitter in there so you got covered by like.
I had the streamers.
I know, but like it's like also you got hit by glitter, man. You're now covered in it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's the
Again,
herpes of
it's
arts and
like,
crafts.
I don't know. Shields cause problems. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it speaks to like the lack of experience with playing airsoft. Because like again, I remember being 13 and having like all these ideas of what playing airsoft would be like fantasizing like, oh, it'd be so cool, be running around because you played Call of Duty and stuff. And then when you actually play, and you realize it's just like, oh, there's a guy behind that corner and I'm behind this corner. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow, meow.
I feel like the whole shield thing would be even more annoying at an indoor field.
Oh yeah.
Like it's annoying in an outdoor setting, but like imagine in an indoor, that's going to cause way more fucking problems too.
Yeah, and the shields that we're talking about are the lightweight plexiglass. So there's no downside to it.
No.
You're not slow.
Nope.
Indoor or outdoor, you're not slow. You're not carrying something that's like, you're like, oh man, I got to take a
I guess
break.
maybe the only downside to it is that it's pretty small. So it doesn't really cover all your body unless you're like
but then
a
think
hobbit.
about this. The evac ones are see-through.
Yep.
So you can just put that up on a window because the windows are small enough. Now
Yeah.
you can freely look out the window and they're shooting your shield. Like, I don't know. Everything about it.
Are you a
bueno.
normie if you use a shield? Yes.
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 The vote is concluded. The council has spoken.
That's a no from me, dog.
If you would like us to cover your topics, drop them in the comments section below, and it could be the next one we discuss on the Are You a Normie segment.
I apologize on behalf of Zulu 24 Airsoft Field if we've offended you in any way.
This is going to cause violence.
We shall see. And ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your time. Good night. God bless. We're out.